and this is my father.
Wow.
When he was a very poor man. He was raised in the farm between 8 brothers and sisters, and my grandmother was a school teacher, and my grandfather, he was a farmer, and they were all forced to leave the countryside because of the political violence that were happening at the time. And this picture was taken in La Catedral prison. This is what I just used to call my home, because, you know, it's prison, but, you know, we felt like home because it was the only time and opportunity that we have to have some time together with my father and all the family at the same time. So, and this is, you know, the kind of luxury we were used to it. And this is why I wrote, you know, below that just 5 minutes of joy, you know, because you see those images and you say, oh, wow, I want to be part of it. I want to enjoy this. And you think that this lasts for many years. And this was only 5 minutes if you compare this to a whole life. Even if in the piñata, you know, you can see, I have to perhaps to zoom in and to show even a bigger picture of the piñata, but you will see the dollars falling off the piñata.
I see that.
So the adults were there, you know, the kids were supposed to be there, not the adults, but everybody was like, hey, I want a piece of it, you know. So it's a very awkward situation. The famous picture of
that's a very famous
United
picture.
States, you know, because it was a very, my father was, I don't know what he felt about this picture, but I believe this picture represents, you know, and tell you how welcome he was in the United States. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
Can be, you know, just some meters away from the White House. So in that time, nobody was paying attention. You know, he could do whatever he wanted, and he was most welcome in the United States. And he always has the same picture frame in every place he went. You know, he was like so proud of that, you know, this picture. Yes, man, we have been, you know, sharing my thoughts and experiences with the youngest audiences. And in most of the times, you know, we receive very good feedback from them. They truly receive the message that I deliver to them in the best way possible, in good faith. And they are, you know, they are willing to know what happened really with my father's stories, with my experiences. And for me, it's about taking responsibility and how to tell those stories to the public, but without glorifying my father's criminal activities. So for me, that's the most important thing to do, and without losing and disrespecting, you know, the victims. That's for me very, very important.
Absolutely. When was the last time you was in Colombia?
Well, man, I was this year. You know, actually, I came from Colombia by the end of March. So, you know, I think I got the last airplane. You know, because
very
all
lucky.
the airports were closing. Yes, man, it was. They almost didn't allow me to travel because, you know, we are Colombian, but I demonstrate to the authorities that I was, you know, a permanent resident here in Argentina. So I have my family here and my right to come to where is my home place. But, you know, it was a very difficult situation. At the last minute, I have to buy another plane ticket just to take the last plane available. So for me, it was like very, a very hard situation. Imagine if I stayed in Colombia, it'll be like 4 months without seeing my son and my wife and my mother.
Very long time.
Yeah, a lot of
miss the
people.
hacienda?
Excuse me?
Do you miss the hacienda Nápoles?
Well, you know, I miss the good moments we lived.
Yeah.
But it's like a mix of feelings. When you talk about the hacienda with me, it's like a mix of feelings because, of course, I have very good memories there with my friends and my family and my father. And at the same time, I have bad memories because of, you know, the police operations and the attacks from the enemies of my father. So it's a mix of, and at the same time, it used to be my home in a
Of
way.
course. Yeah.
And also, it's like now when I have the opportunity to visit my what it was my own place, you know, they wanted to charge me for the entrance, so I feel like I don't want to pay for that, you know.
Of course. It's now
Yeah.
a tourist. It's a tourist attraction, right?
Yes, yes. You can find like 5 different hotels from 1 star to 5 stars hotel, and also it's like an amusement park at the same time, and they also have a maximum security prison in the same place. So it's very awkward, you know. It's like
Yeah.
you don't understand very well. It's like, okay, there's a prison, but now this is the hippos, and you can enjoy them, and it's like you don't
So
understand very
if
well
you
what
want to
is
experience Colombia, go to Medellin, right? Because
yeah.
everything.
Medellin is one of the most beautiful cities of my country for sure, man, and you know it's before the COVID situation, it was, you were amazed how many tourists you could see in the streets in Medellin city. You know, it's something very, very unique, and people enjoying a lot. Different nationalities, people coming from all over the world for different reasons. So, and
Do
of
you think
course,
any of that has anything to do with your father?
well, yes, you know, it's been quite a. My father has been very famous for the last decades. Everybody knows that. So it's in a way unstoppable. You know, it's like something you can't deal with that. But you know, it's not the only thing to see. You know,
Of course.
Colombia and our city and our country has many many attractions and many good things to do. But you know, let's say that the TV series and everything that happened recently make the people aware of the who was Pablo Escobar, or at least who they thought he was. So and that brings the attention of a lot of people, a lot of tourism. And I'm not against that, but a lot of politicians are against that. But I think that
Of course.
as long as we tell the story in a responsible way and we don't encourage others to follow my father's examples, I think that no country should deny his own story, you
Of
know.
course.
And so,
Yeah.
because, what's the point to do that? We have to learn from our own story so we don't repeat it in the future. It's not about denial, it's about accepting the truth and, moving forward and doing something about it.
I
So,
guess you're
like,
making good of a bad situation.
yes, man, it's like, okay, sadly it happened, but okay, we have the experience. We don't want this to happen again. So let's move forward. And of course, if they can use this in a responsible way, they can take a lot of advantage, in financial and economical results for the good of the people, the local ones. So I think if it is, understood and used in a responsible way, I have nothing against that. Of course, some other tourist guides, they are using my father name just in the wrong way.
Yeah.
So, and I understand this bothers some other people, some victims and politicians, they take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When did you decide to do your first show with people? What was it that made you want to go out there and just speak to these people?
Well, man, if you ask me, I never thought I was going to do such a thing in my whole life, because it was supposed that I was very shy, and I didn't want to talk in public and I feel afraid of it. But, it's look where I am now. But the first experience was in Mexico City. I was invited to participate in a TED event, And so it was my first experience, and it was very hard because they told me you have 18 minutes to tell the most important thing in your whole life. So I said, "Oh wow," I had not too much time to explain, but I think I learned and I want to say about life. But it was a great challenge for me that really pushed me and make me think deeply about the real meaning of just having the opportunity, the curse, and whatever you want to see it, you know, but of just experience this kind of life. Just not only being the son of, but also, you know, overcome that situation and that reality. So for me, it was a great experience, and it was my first time in front of 300 people.
Wow.
And it was a very awkward scenario because, you know, it was like a round place, and so everybody was surrounding me 360 degrees. So I was like always turning in the same point, but I remember it was the first time, but since then I never stopped. So that's
it gets
how I
easier.
got. Yeah, it's easier today. I have more experience. I am more relaxed. You know, at the beginning I was like very like tense. You could see it, but and also very afraid of, because, you know.
Well, you don't know what reaction you're going to get from these people. You know, are they going
Yes,
to take this good?
absolutely, and you are also putting your life in danger. You know,
Yeah.
because if you miss a single word, you know, it can change a whole sentence, and it can be, you know, feel like in a different way. So for me, I felt a lot of fear, just because, you know, I'm going to say this, and I hope you're going to understand what I mean. So a lot of people died in the past just because they
Just for
couldn't.
saying the wrong thing.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a unique moment for me. But, you know, after that moment, you know, I felt comfortable and with more experience, and after I started to see the effect, you know, in every single teenager who approach to me and they thank me for just sharing my story, showing them that that's not the path for them. Also, when I started to realize that I was inviting them not to follow my father's footsteps, and also to be responsible about their own stories, about their own life, and about the consequences of being, you know, committed to their lives. And I felt much better than anyone, you know, because I felt that with a story that is very negative, I am doing a lot of good and positive things.
Yeah,
And that's
you
very
make
hard to achieve, very hard, because there's a lot of violence in my father's life, for sure. And so it's difficult to find something positive from it.
Also, I've seen, obviously, you've visited schools, colleges, and stuff like this, and you know, I'm sure, you know, these guys are so young, they perhaps don't understand exactly what's happening, but to get them at such a young age and give them this information, it just must be a good thing.
Yeah, man, because I explained to them, you don't have to experience the same things that I experienced in the past just to learn the same lessons. I'm giving this to you for free. Just pay attention and try something else, because it's not going to work. You know, it's like my father tried it, and all of his friends and everybody's dead. You know, so please, what's the thing that make you feel and believe that you're going to do it and you're going to get away with it? Come on, just think about it. And this is not a place for you. This is not a story to use in a irresponsible way. So it's very good when they approach to you and they said, thanks to this lecture, thanks to this moment, I changed my mind. I thought that, you know, following your father dreams was the best thing that could happen to my life. And because they see my father as a successful case, you know.
A hero
And
or
I'm
something.
saying, look, it was my father. I love him very much. He gave me a lot of love. That's true. But not because he had a lot of money was a successful man. Because what's the point of being successful? You know, what's success for you? For me, success is something that you can truly enjoy. Because if you have a lot of money, but you are not free and you're starving, you know, it's even worse, you know.
You're a poor man.
You have to be poor. Yeah, you are the richest and the poorest at the same time. That's something very crazy, but really happened to my father. You know, he had a lot of money, but he was starving. You know, he wasn't living in the same mansions that you can find him. You know, Narcos. You know, and in this TV series, didn't happen that way. It was truly. I was visiting this guy, my father, every single weekend, and at the same time, you know, the Forbes magazine was saying that he was the 10th richest man in the world, whatever. But he was living like the poorest.
The poorest.
You know what's going on.
Unbelievable.
So we learn a lot from that, and because we respect the story, and because we pay attention to what happened to us, our family, our father, and we took responsibility for that. And it's something very difficult to start doing, because you know you requires a lot of responsibility to say, okay, I'm very sorry for what happened, and this is what we learned from the past, and so we have to move forward. And so it's difficult to find a balance between the love and the respect that I feel for my father, and the respect that I should show to his victims too.
Of course, yeah. How was it when you got recognized for the World Ambassador of Peace? Was that? Did you ever think you would ever get this, or?
Never in my life, man. Never in my life, and even less in this moment of my life. You know, because you know, you expect many things. I was supposed to be dead already since the age of 16. So everything that I'm experiencing today is something new, and I'm feeling very grateful for this. And this experience is, you know, it's a way of somebody saw that I was doing something good for humanity or for our country, whatever. But it's a very good, what will be the word for that in English? Acknowledgement.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was like somebody pay attention to what I was doing, and so they gave me this recognition and this responsibility too, because it is also a big responsibility. And that really bring me a lot of hope. And you know, the situation, the good story behind this is that the one who recommended me to be an ambassador for peace was the son of the Cali Cartel, you know. So
okay, Rodriguez.
Yes, William Rodríguez was the guy who said to this organization, you should name Sebastián as an ambassador of peace. And I was very surprised, you know, because we were supposed to be enemies just because of my father's and our father's fight. But instead of, you know, fighting each other, we choose peace, we choose dialogue, we choose forgiveness and reconciliation. So that's a very good thing to show and to share to the public, because imagine, who could ever thought that, you know, the son of the Cali Cartel and at the same time the son of the Medellin Cartel, instead of killing each other, they are willing to make peace and to show to the world that there's no point to follow our father's example. So that's not only my father's case, but also his father's.
Yeah.
And his father's
I think it's a very powerful. Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And he's in jail in the United States.
Wow.
He's convicted for 30 years in prison. And if he got out, he will be out like by the age of, I don't know, 90 years old, something like that. So imagine. So what the conclusion is, our fathers, sadly, just because they wanted power, money, and everything, they lose control of their lives, you know, and the power and the money they achieve, you know, took control of their lives and destroyed them without thinking, you know, just in a second. So
I guess it's a powerful message to say to anybody, if Juan Pablo Escobar and William Rodriguez can finish this or you know, make good of this bad situation, that anybody can.
Yes, imagine, man, it's like against all odds, you know, against everybody.
Against all odds, completely.
Yeah. Totally. So it's a miracle that it's happening, and
Absolutely.
I'm very grateful. And I have uh, good communication with him in a almost in a daily basis. With a lot of
Very good.
respect, and we have learned that we can do better things together than just fighting each other. There's no point to continue to this circle of hate, because nobody can get out of that. And we have to stop this for our families, for our countries. So that's how after he watched the documentary scenes of my father, he got like very touched and convinced that he should do something. And so finally we had the opportunity to meet each other. But the situation is this: he's not allowed to leave the United States, and I'm not allowed to go in. So
Okay.
like everything happened
Is a
between,
friction.
yeah, the video conference. So it's like thanks to that we could make peace and stay like as close as possible. So we're trying to find a way to see each other and to give us a hug somewhere in the border between the United States border and the Mexican border.
You
That's the
stand on
idea.
one side and William stand on the other side,
Yeah,
right?
that's the idea, man. That's the idea. So we can be as close as possible, and I don't know, perhaps we could find a spot, a neutral spot where we can give us a hug and show to the world that we have to leave the past where it is,
Mm-hmm.
and don't bring it in front of you all the time. And because of course if you look at our stories, we have lots of excuses to hate and to kill each other, but that's not the
It's not the right
purpose of
way.
this life. We have to be better human beings, and it is also our commitment with our generation and with our sons and daughters. So it's something that really excites me, because not also the peace that I made with him, but also with many other victims of my father. More than 150 families so far. We've
Brilliant.
been talking, and with 100% of success rate. It's that's quite a lot.
I guess they never thought that the son of Pablo Escobar would ever come back to them and do such a nice thing.
Never, man. And when my father was alive, and we were discussing a lot about his own violence, because I was just trying to make him stop.
When we wake up in the morning, we get out of bed and we start our day with Coro Snacks. Coro is a healthy snacks brand focusing on bringing additive-free, natural ingredients to their customers with fair prices in bulk packaging. They have everything from nut butters to free from baking ingredients to cooking essentials and, of course, the snacks. Oh, these Syrian pumpkin seeds from Coro are amazing. I have them on my cheese on toast every morning. You've been getting into them, Jen?
Yes, and all the health benefits it brings.
Lashings of them.
Right. Pop this in the oven then.
So what makes Coro special in comparison to others? Coro cares about sustainability. Their bulk packs save on packaging material compared to small single packs. For a 5% discount on Coro's products, use the code TRUECRIME with no space in between true and crime. The link to Coro's online shop is in the description box on YouTube. Thanks for supporting our sponsor.
In many ways, I was asking him, please don't put more bombs. It's like, you're crazy. What are you doing? You're just killing innocent people that never hurt you or me. So what are you doing? So of course we have several discussions, and that gave me the opportunity to be clear with my father about my thoughts, about what I thought about his violence. So we had the opportunity to discuss this, but he was a man determined, to do whatever he wanted. Sadly, he wasn't paying attention to anyone. He was just listening to me, and just a few times, perhaps he paid some attention, but he was
Maybe he
making
was
his own
lost.
law.
He was so focused, so much
Yeah,
and too much power that he just probably couldn't change.
yeah. I was a man who was, he thought he was he could have more power than anyone. He was willing to be the next president of Colombia, but he told me once that he understood that there's some people that they even can have more power than the president. So and he became that kind of person. In some part of his stories, I was seeing him, writing letters to the president, and the next day, the president was doing what he asked. So
yeah, that's unbelievable.
He was, dealing with power at that time, the 80s.
What was your view on Narcos when you first heard about it coming out? What did you think?
Well, Narcos, the TV series, man. Well, when I was the true story behind this is that I realized that they were about to shoot the series 6 months before. So I sent a friend who could talk with Netflix, and so he offered, because I told him, complete access to my archives, files, whatever they wanted to check about my father's story, because I said, okay, you're gonna tell my father's story, I would like to collaborate, so you will tell the precise story. But they didn't, they weren't interested at all. They said, no, we know everything we want to know. So, it's that's the result. So when I had this first opportunity to watch the series, I was exactly in the process of writing my second book, and I have a delivered date. So I was in a rush, and I called my editor and I said, look, this TV series just got out, and I want to see the series. I don't care if I'm going to be late, but I have to pay attention to what it says, etc. And after I watched the series, I wrote a small article about the 28 mistakes that I discovered in the second season, etc. So it became very, very famous, the article. In 3 days, it was, more than 3 million people read the article. They translated the article even in newspapers in India, so it was
everywhere.
I was just talking about my father that is from Colombia. Nobody knows him, but I thought that nobody, not a lot of people. So it's amazing how many people are interested in this story, and you can see that just because of how many languages I have in my first book already translated. So it's quite a lot of countries and cultures. I went to Greece, I went to Lithuania, France, Italy, Spain. It's
everywhere.
It doesn't matter where. It's a huge, in some cases, respect, admiration, glorification. People who doesn't understand the real meaning of the stories. Big fans, people who they show me their tattoos about my father. I even have some images. Perhaps I will try to share my screen.
Yes, please do.
If I can do it. Let me check if I can share my. Perhaps Pablo, will you help me to? Pablo, ¿me habilitas, por favor, para la pantalla?
Okay.
Okay, gracias. Just wait a minute. I'm asking Pablo to allow me to share the.
No problem.
Wait, please. Wait, please.
Okay, Pablo.
No rush, man. So, do you prefer coffee or tea, Reese?
Whiskey.
Tea with whiskey.
That's good. That's good.
Tea with whiskey. And what's your favorite? Is it guaro? How do you say the Colombian?
Guaro.
Okay.
That's our local drink.
Very good.
Well, that's a very dangerous drink, man, because it brings all your passions out. So could make you feel like
Pablo Escobar. Make you feel like Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, like Pablo Escobar. That's very dangerous. So don't drink with responsibility, because you don't know what's going to happen next. So yeah, that's a kind of it's kind of drink that has this special effect, like it makes you so passionate, even in terms of love or hate. If you want to fight, you're gonna have a fight. If you want to
Aguero.
love, people, you're gonna be okay. But it's a very extreme effect.
Is it worse than tequila?
I prefer tequila, man. To tell
You
you,
prefer
the truth.
tequila?
I prefer tequila. Yes.
Wow. And you have been to America before, haven't you?
Excuse me?
You have been to America before.
Yes, in the United States, yes. I went until I was 14 years old,
And that was like your birthday, wasn't it? Was it your birthday when you went there?
In some opportunities, I celebrate my birthday in the United States, but I visited in the first years of the 80s, let's say the beginning of the 80s, when with my father, with the famous picture, in front of the White House.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about that picture. And after that, even when my father's visa was canceled, I could return until the age of 14. And I visited many times, Disney World most of the times, and enjoying, as a kid, as a small kid, as a teenager too. And let me check what's going on with the screen. Pablo, está deshabilitada todavía. No sé si la...
Ya está.
Ahora sí. Okay. Now I can. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Pablo.
Wow.
Can you see it now? Okay.
I see that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to show you some pictures. This is the kind of lecture that I always talk about, because most of the people, they don't know how to call me, if I prefer Juan Pablo or Sebastián, if I feel bad if they call me Juan Pablo. I don't feel anything, I'm the same guy. Doesn't matter for me. Juan, Pablo, Carlos, Jimmy, whatever, it's the same for me. You can call me, because that's what I learned, that we are not our last names or names. And the most important thing is that we are what we declare, what we do. Our actions are truly the things that define us as people, as persons, individuals. So this is the kind of, and this is my father.
Wow.
When he was a very poor man. He was raised in the farm between 8 brothers and sisters, and my grandmother was a school teacher, and my grandfather, he was a farmer, and they were all forced to leave the countryside because of the political violence that was happening at the time. And this picture was taken in La Catedral prison. This is what I just used to call my home, because it's prison, but we felt like home because it was the only time and opportunity that we have to have some time together with my father and all the family at the same time. So, and this is the kind of luxury we were used to it, and this is why I wrote, below that just 5 minutes of joy, because you see those images and you say, oh, wow, I want to be part of it. I want to enjoy this. And you think that this lasts for many years. And this was only 5 minutes if you compare this to a whole life. Even if in the piñata, you can see, I have to perhaps to zoom in and to show even a bigger picture of the piñata, but you will see the dollars falling off the piñata.
I see that.
So the adults were there, the kids were supposed to be there, not the adults, but everybody was like, hey, I want a piece of it, so it's a very awkward situation. The famous picture of
that's a very famous
United
picture.
States, because it was my father was, I don't know what he felt about this picture, but I believe this picture represents, and tell you how welcome he was in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can be, just some meters away from the White House. So in that time, nobody was paying attention. He could do whatever he wanted, and he was most welcome in the United States. And he always has the same picture frame in every place he went. He was like so proud of that. This picture.
It's a good photo.
Yeah, it's a very good photo and very, very famous too. And this is what he
Yeah.
did with the municipal dump. You know, it's people were living, and you can see the black and white picture. And so he started a housing project for these families because there was a big fire to destroy everything in this municipal dump. This family actually lived there. You know, it's very, very, very hard condition for them. So my father, you know, he felt that he could do something for the poorest, and this is where everything started. The media started calling him the Robin Hood. So he was the Robin Hood from Colombia, and he liked the nickname. You know,
He liked the status.
So this is an actual picture of the neighborhood. This is it says, "Welcome to the neighborhood, Pablo Escobar. Here you can breathe peace." Which is something very, and of course, more than 5,000 families live there, and even more today, almost 20,000.
Really? And is it still called Barrio Pablo Escobar?
Yes, even if the authorities are against this, then you know, the inhabitants, they name the neighborhood as they please. So nobody can erase this. And this is something, you know, that I showed to the students, and I told them, look, my father enjoyed only 10% of his life. Are these your plans for life, for your own life? Come on, we have to do better than this, because this is the reality. You know, my father was just enjoying between the 1980 and 1984. That's it.
Yeah.
It was the 5 minutes of joy, nothing else. The rest was, you know, gunfights, hiding, running away from the authorities, from the enemies, from Colombia, leaving away your family, your loved ones, your friends, and watching how everybody was dying because of this. So it's craziness. Like, how can you consider as a success case if you look at it? And of course, the Monaco building, when we used to live here in this beautiful building, well, it was like a 2-floor penthouse with more than 1,000 square meters of just the penthouse. You can see the mountains and everything we lived and we experienced it was very good. But I knew that everything we have never lasts. So this is how we get up in the morning of, you know, January 13th of 1988. A car bomb exploded from the Cali Cartel, 700 kilos of dynamite, almost kill us. I was living in the upper right, that you can see actually the bed, you know, where I was sleeping with my mother. And so the roof fell and almost killed me, couldn't breathe. So it was a very tough situation. And as you can see, my little sister's bed, you know, she was about to drink her milk, and, you know, the explosion in the window frame, you can see this. Nobody put the window frame there. It was the bomb. Actually, just did this with every single glass. You know, it's a miracle that nothing happened to us. You know, it's so this is some other stories that people doesn't knew, and the stories that are related with, you know, I was with my father, and we were actually starving, you know, because we had more than $4 million next to us, you know, in cash, but the police were after us, and we couldn't just buy a piece of bread, man, and a bottle of water. Perhaps we have more money to buy every stock of food in the whole city, but we didn't have the freedom.
Didn't have access to that.
Yeah, so it's that's the thing that that's my point. You know, what's the point of having $4 million, $10 million in cash if you are starving, man? You're supposed to have this money to fulfill these needs, but you cannot. So this is the truly experiences, and this is how my father used to treat me. You know, he gave me a lot of love, and at the same time, I knew the bandit, you know, and the advices between one man and the other. I had to live with this reality. This is another picture that I remember a lot, and it reminds me a story. You know, I grew up with a lot of killers. You know, I grew up, and I call them my killer nannies in a way. So I asked them what was the best thing you learned from my father, and they told me we learned from him that we have to be very good fathers with our sons and daughters. So my father and my mother raised me with a lot of love, and I think that's the big difference between
Absolutely.
Being raised with a lot of violence. Of course, my father wasn't practicing the human values that he was trying to show me inside our home. I know perfectly well that outside he wasn't doing the same thing, but he was
Yeah,
just trying to comply with with just being a good father with me and giving me, in his own perspective, what he thought was a good example. And so that's the big difference between me and the rest of the killers, because they didn't have the opportunity to be raised in a family and be
yeah.
surrounded by a lot of love. That's the big difference. That's why they were raised with a lot of fear and hate to everybody. So my father, imagine, he gave them power, money, and a gun, and they were, and he treated them very, very, very well. So they were willing to die for him.
Yes.
That's how he managed to build his own army, you know. And this is the kind of, the narco series effect on the youngest people and audience. This is a Russian guy, 26-year-old guy, who shared this with me in the social media. I received like more than 3,000 messages every single day from people saying, "Hey, I just watched the series, so cool. I want to be like your dad." And say, I don't know if it's as cool as you thought. I think you have to think about it twice. And this is a photo that reminds me a conversation that I had with my father about drugs. That's another very important thing to talk about. Addictions and how drugs affect our body, our family, our destiny in many, many ways. So I had this conversation with him when I was 8 years old, 9 years old, more or less. And he told me a brave man is the one who doesn't do drugs. So, a phrase like this coming from Pablo Escobar, the guy responsible for 80% of the drug trafficking business in the whole world, is like, okay, I have to pay attention to you. And he said,
listen.
yeah, he used to say to me, cocaine is a poison to sell, not to take.
Hope you're enjoying this podcast. There's a word from our sponsor, Rocket Money. The other day, I had to cancel 3 Amazon Prime memberships. I had a personal on the UK Amazon, US Amazon, company account, US Amazon, UK Amazon. Do you understand how hard it is to cancel these bloody things? That's why Rocket Money makes these things so much easier, formerly known as Truebill. The app shows all your subscriptions in one place and cancels what you don't want for you. Rocket Money can even find subscriptions you didn't know you were paying for. Just like with me, with my 4 Amazon Prime memberships, you may find out you've been at least double charged for a subscription. To cancel a subscription, all you've got to do is press cancel and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Get rid of useless subscriptions with Rocket Money now. Go to rocketmoney.com/Sean, SHAUN. Seriously, it could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/Sean, SHAUN. Thank you for supporting our sponsor, Rocket Money. Links in the description box. Cheers.
So it's he was very aware that he was selling poison to the people. So that's why he didn't. He wasn't a consumer, Most of the drug dealers, they know what they are selling, so they don't do drugs. And this is the reconciliation process with most of the families, the Galan brothers in the upper left, and the guy in red t-shirt, it was a policeman. My father killed like more than 500 policemen only in one single month in Medellin City, man. So this guy showed me a picture, 150 of his mates from the police and from the partners of the police. And he told me, look, only 3 survived, including me.
Unbelievable.
The picture. So it was very hard to me. And so now we became close friends. the picture where the guy I'm giving the hug, it's Jorge Lara, the son of the Minister of Justice, killed by my father in the year 1984. And as you can see below in the left, I'm with Miguel Rodríguez. I'm just celebrating with just a small glass of whiskey. He's another son of the Cali Cartel, and this picture was taken in Cali, actually. So I was supposed to be dead already before the first drink, you know, but we were there. We choose peace, we choose reconciliation, respect.
Yeah.
So this is something that is not a theory, you know. When I'm talk about peace, when I want to talk about peace, I don't want to talk about theories. I want to talk about making peace and taking peace very seriously in our life.
Yeah.
And it's not just, you know, something that could happen, some kind of romantic idea. No, it's happening. You know, it's like in the black and white picture where you have Aaron Seal, the son of Barry Seal. The guy was killed by his father was killed by my father in the year 1986 in the United States. His father, I don't know if you had the opportunity to watch one of the Tom Cruise, one of his last movies, Made in America, or something like that.
I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen that.
Well, it's the story of his dad. You know,
really?
It's exactly his son, Aaron Seal, the guy with the sunglasses. We became very close friends, and we developed a relationship that I'm proud of. And the lady next to the older picture, the last picture, is she's a journalist, and she was kidnapped by my father for almost 3 months, you know, with among of other partners. So as you can see, there's a lot of stories and violence everywhere, but also a lot of hope. And that's something truly amazing, man, truly amazing, that people who have suffered so much, and even though they are willing to forgive and not to forget, because that's not the point. You know, forgiving is not about forgetting. That's a different thing. It's about healing.
These are
some examples of my books, and you know, these are some examples about my work as an architect.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I'm showing you this and why I show this to the public is because this is the kind of pictures and images that I want my son to inherit from.
Yeah.
Not the violence, not
the
blood.
Pablo Escobar
and something different, that we can create our own destiny. We can design our own destiny, even against all odds, you know, against
absolutely.
So this is pretty much all, man. And choose well and think twice, you know.
It's unbelievable. It's just a magnificent story.
And this is a short way to. I have a longer presentation with some short videos and examples, you know. But just for you to know, I wanted to share with you the kind of keynote presentation that I share with most of the public. This is a short one, but I think it has everything, the basic things for sure.
Unbelievable. Thank you so much for sharing.
My pleasure.
Pictures there that I've never seen before. I do follow it, so I've seen quite a few of them, but it was nice, you know, the one with your dad.
That's the idea, man, that not everything will be as easy to get, you know. That's the idea, to show something different.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you still feel like a burden from your father? Do you somewhat feel unsafe when you travel in Colombia, or do you feel safe now?
Well, I think it's a risk. It's always a risk, you know. It's about, you know, believing, but also about experiencing that most of the people who approach to me, and so far 100% of the people, they thank me, you know, for what I'm doing. They don't see me as a threat. So that's something very good for me. Even my father's enemies, nobody see me as a threat. They know I have good intentions, that I'm trying to do something positive with this, nothing against anyone. So they respect that, you know, and you will be surprised. My father's victims, is something very hard to accept when they say thank you. it's something that you cannot process that war, because coming from a victim is very hard in a personal way. How could you say thank you? Because my father only gave you pain, violence, and lots of reasons to hate. And and you're thanking me for that? Come on, it's like I cannot process that. But it's very common. But it brings also a lot of hope, because we truly understand that when a victim can say thank you, they are, of course, they know they are not my victims, but they are truly aware of that. But at the same time, they are saying me, thank you for taking responsibility, even for the things that you didn't
somebody
do.
else's actions.
Yeah. So, and that's something we should learn from, as humanity. It's not only for this kind of cases, but for everything. We have to take responsibility, even for the things we are not responsible for. I think that's another good lesson from this kind of events or something.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you very much, my friend, for your time and collaboration. Anything else you want to ask, please feel free.
I think that's everything. I think you covered a lot of things, and it's been really good to find out more about you and hear it from you directly. So, like I say, I think this platform is amazing. So it's for us to connect properly, and brings us a lot closer. So
I think we should explore this possibility to perhaps to offer to the audience, if they have, they can think about the possibility. I don't know. That's something you will discuss further with Alex and Pablo, to see what we can do with this kind of events in the near future.
Yeah, no, that'd be really good. Absolutely, really good. And I hope to see you soon.
Me too, man. Me too. I will let you know if I have some plans to travel to Europe. But I think by the end of the year, I don't think it's gonna happen in the next day, but for sure by the end of the year, with God's help. And we'll let you know so we can meet each other, man.
That would be very good. That would be very, very good.
Okay, man.
Thank you so much.
Hey.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Pablo. Thank you now.
Take care, man.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Please, man.
All right, so after the death of your father, you got on the radio and you said, I'm going to avenge my father's death. I'm going to kill the bastards, the motherfuckers who did this. I'm going to rise up. I'm going to be more dangerous than my father. How big a mistake was that?
Well, man, it's perhaps one of the biggest mistakes I ever committed in my life. Just let's say that 5 seconds of threats became in 25 years of exile, man, and didn't stop yet. So I learned a lot from those words, from the power of a declaration, and how this could really affect your present, your future, and how this can put your life in danger too. Perhaps I wasn't realizing that I was, the son of Pablo Escobar. Perhaps if, a teenager received the same bad news that his father passed away, perhaps he could react the same as I did. But not being the son of Pablo Escobar, people won't take that seriously. But, I didn't realize that what I was doing, what I was saying, what I was thinking were going to affect so much my own destiny. And I could tell you that those words for sure affected my destiny in many ways, but also gave me the opportunity to make the call again and to realize that that wasn't the path for me, and that wasn't the future that I wanted to build. So I call again to the media, and I said, I apologize for what I've just said, and I want to make peace, and I want to be committed with peace. And that's what I've been doing for the past 26 years of my life. But of course, people remembers me for just, for those threats, for sure.
So the Cali Cartel, they had a death sentence on you after that. And they were allied with the Castaño brothers, with Don Berna. The Castaño brothers with Los Pepes said they were going to cut you up and your sister up into little pieces and send them to Pablo in a sack. Now, your mother talked to the Cali guys and arranged for you to have a sit down with them to see if they would spare your life. How did it feel to go to that meeting thinking you were never going to come out, possibly alive?
Well, imagine yourself being invited to a meeting where you already know and totally positive that you're not going to come out alive. Will you go to that meeting, Sean? I don't know.
It seems like you didn't have much of a choice.
Well, I did, and that was perhaps the worst part, because of course I have always the choice to be Pablo Escobar 2.0, and sadly I had the know-how because I was very next to my father, and I was watching how he handled all of these things. At the same time, I was totally afraid of what was going to happen to me, and I have to say that it was thanks to my father's enemies' advices that I decided to go to that meeting, because at the beginning when I was invited, let's say, one of them, they were, treating me bad, insulting me, threatening me all the time. But suddenly, everybody calmed down and get outside of the prison that I was visiting when I received the message. And one of the guys approached to me and they said, "Hey, look, man, you don't realize that you are already dead, and that the only chance to get out alive is to be sharp on that meeting. So be there, because that's the only way out." And it makes a lot of sense to me, so I wrote my own will when I was 16, and I decided to go to face death, because I was also tired of running away from the sins that I wasn't responsible for. So for me, it was also what an adventure, what a challenge that I had to face in front of me. But thanks to that meeting, I realized that I could have a second chance, the right to own and to develop the second chance of being another human being, a different one, and to start over. So I took that opportunity, and I thank my father's enemies for allowing me to stay alive, and I honor that opportunity. I became an architect, an industrial designer, a writer, and I'm just trying to use my father's story in the most responsible way so we could, move forward and learn from it.
So you tried to get out of the country multiple times. And
Yeah.
there was one time where you were at the airport and you guys were queuing up to get on the airplane, and then you got searched and they made you miss the airplane. And then the Los Pepes guys showed up. How did you manage to save your family in that situation?
Well, man, I felt, I remember that when I had the opportunity to escape from that situation, imagine an international airport that was in control of terrorists. And the authorities, even instead of stopping them, were helping them. It's a very awkward situation. And you are just a single family, and I was 16, and my little sister, she has like 10, 11 years, something like that. And I was surrounded by women of my family members. I don't know how it came up to my mind that the only way out was to rent an helicopter, And so I found somebody who offered me help in front of a lot of policemen who wanted me dead, of course. And he said that he could get me an office and a telephone. So I don't know, just in a minute, I realized that the only way out was just to rent a helicopter and escape from all of them. Because, we had no bodyguards at that time. Nobody could give us any protection. My father was losing the control of the country. He wasn't the powerful man that everyone knew and expected to be in that time. So we were truly surrounded, and I don't know, it's a miracle that I can speak with you today, man, because I should have died that day exactly, as many other opportunities happened to me too. But I remember that when I managed to escape, the same day I was with my father, and he congratulated me just because, how I handled the situation. He couldn't, even believe it. How could I but I said to him, I learned from you, you're a good man in terms of how to escape from danger and authorities. And I just did the same, but we were totally surrounded, more than 100 policemen and more than 50 people with guns and with, their face cover. You couldn't not see and realize if they were bandits or, or agents. You couldn't figure it out who they were, but for sure they had no good intentions of being there. And it didn't happen in the middle of the night, man. It was just like during the morning, in front of thousands of people and, airline employees, many people there who saw and witnessed all of this. And it was, the terror was taking control of the country. And there was two sides of terror, my father's sides and the other sides, and it was a very awkward situation, but finally God helped us and we could manage to escape from there. But it was quite a challenge for sure.
Going back to an earlier year then, a pivotal moment in Pablo's career was the assassination of Lara Bonilla. Things really changed after that. So you guys had to leave the country in a hurry. Your mother was pregnant. How did it feel to be on that journey to Panama?
Well, man, I remember that we were forced to take a helicopter that from my father. And it's like suddenly all your life, as you know it, changed without notice. And I was going to school every single day, having my family, my home, as I knew it since I was very, very young. So suddenly I was forced to change our home, and we went to a farm where we took the helicopter and we went to Panama. And we have to dress like if we were tourists, next to some near beach. It was there. So when the police stopped us, they thought that we were just, diving and doing something like that. But it was thanks to the General Noriega, who was helping my father and allowing him and his organization to stay there. But he was working also like a double agent, because at the same time he was a CIA agent. So it was a very awkward and difficult moment. And that's exactly the point in my life where I realized who my father was, because in the meantime, I was just joining my father for his political campaigns, and everybody was saying, Pablo, thank you very much. You're helping a lot of people. So I was just hearing a lot of good things about my father, but this was the start. This was the beginning when I realized to know my father even better. And he approached me and he said, look, son, I want you to know what I do, and I am a bandit, and this is what I do for a living. So since that moment, he started sharing with me the news, and we saw the TV news, we read the newspaper together, and he didn't have any problem to recognize his responsibility for most of the news that we were reading. So it was a moment that allowed me also to know better who my father was. And I know that some people, they say that I don't know anything about my father, but they don't know my relationship with him and how direct and honest and he was with me, because I don't know many fathers who could approach to their own sons and say, hey, I killed this guy and I am responsible for this cocaine or not. I don't know many guys who could do that. Now that I am a father, I think, how should I tell my son if I commit a crime? Will I talk to him in the same way that my father did it? I don't know, man. I think it's very, very hard. But I believe that also my father was just trying to be my father, and being honest with me was a way of showing me respect, I believe.
Who do you believe trafficked the most drugs in the 1980s? Your father or George H.W. Bush and the CIA?
you did your homework, man. Well, I really don't know who handled more, but it's difficult to count how many kilos did everyone deliver in those times. But you remember, there was a big fight, against the socialism in Central America during the 80s. So the CIA was using the drug trafficking business, and also they were like in the middle of exchange between drugs and guns. So they will support the right-wing groups so they could kill all the lefties. So that's, let's say, the excuse to be part of the drug trafficking business, to finance all these wars against the lefties in Central America in those times. And of course, my father was part of it. And as I published in my second book, that is not being translated in English yet, I can imagine why. The thing is that we should take this in a relaxed way, but it's a hard story to tell. My father was, and there's pictures that Barry Seal, the CIA agent, took from an airplane that my father actually bought from the CIA, and he was sending drugs to the United States with those kind of planes. But of course, the CIA put a hidden camera inside of it and took several pictures of my father and some people of the Nicaraguan government, and even another partner of my father called the Mexican, AKA the Mexican, Gonzalo Rodriguez Gacha. And what it's interesting for me about those pictures is that you can see the right wing, the left wing, the drug dealers, the army, the government, everybody together, just after the money. It's like doesn't matter who believes in the right wing's ideas or the left wing, whatever. It's just only one things that bring everybody together, and it's money. And that's, I feel a little bit disappointed because I thought that, their ideas were stronger than that. But, at the end, money is like whatever is the only thing that matters, sadly.
Your father said that those photos were fake because he's never carries the drugs himself. Are you saying that the photos were real?
Well, the photos are real, and he said that he never carried the drugs into the plane, but because the soldiers were doing that part of the job,
Okay.
So he wasn't lying. It was the soldiers who were helping him.
So you've met a lot of the victims of people who were assassinated. I've written a book about Barry Seal. Did you meet Barry Seal's son?
Yes, actually, we are very close friends, and I'm happy to say that, man. And I should say that Aaron Seal, his son, he teach me perhaps one of the most important lessons for me in terms of reconciliation and forgiveness. And I thought that I knew something about asking forgiveness and reconcile with people, but this guy is truly amazing, because the first message that I received from him was he was asking me to forgive his own father just because he was willing to talk about my own father against him in a U.S. court. So he asked me to forgive his own father, even when my father was the one who killed his own guys, his own father. So for me, it was like very hard to receive and to process that message, because I wasn't expecting so much kindness, and I don't know even how to describe his heart, man, because and also his mother. Actually, they both contact the guys who pulled the trigger and killed his dad and husband in that time, and they got in contact in those times, and they said, "We forgive you. We have nothing against you. It's God's will, and we know." That's their words. And they said, "We know that our father took decisions in life that bring him a lot of problems, and it was thanks to his own decisions that this had this unhappy ending for sure.
Those,
So that really inspired me, to continue working with my father's victims, and so far, and thank God, and that today I have met like 150 families. All of them suffer, kidnaps and murder, many crimes committed against them, and thank God the success rate of those conversations are 100%. So that keep me going in that path of forgiveness and peace, man.
that's really powerful. What motivated you to meet the victims' family members in the first place?
Well, man, it's like I felt like silence will kill me. If I stay in total silence for life, that will kill me in a way, and I couldn't stand that, man. So I took the decision. I told this to my mother, and I said to her, look, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I feel the need to ask for forgiveness, even if I didn't commit any crime against them. But I believe that somebody has to take responsibility for this, and nobody's doing it, and who else is going to do it? And I got her support and my sisters too. And after that, I start realizing that perhaps the best way to approach to them was telling my own story through a documentary that was called Sins of My Father. And suddenly, during the year 2009, we finally published the documentary. So that gave us the perfect opportunity and excuse to approach to those families. And that encouraged me also to write a letter to them. And after that, I could have a meeting in Colombia after 14 years of not being able to come back to my own country. And when I took the decision to come back, I was feeling a lot of fear, because when I left my country, they said to me, if you ever come back, we will kill you. That's it. And so I promised not to come back again, ever. So I was not keeping that promise, and I was facing a lot of danger. But for me, I thought, and I was totally sure that it was more important to face that danger. But because I was seeking forgiveness and reconciliation with my father's victims, so there was nothing else more important than that.
Well, fantastic work that you're doing there. Another life and death situation was when the Cali Cartel bombed a house your dad had left in the morning, and the roof was off. You guys were looking at the sky, and the way your mother described it, that you basically a Botero statue had saved your life because you were pinned down by a slab. Mm-hmm. What happened next?
Well, man, nobody ever in that time in Colombia have heard, a car bomb explosion. Nobody. So when we were in the middle, we were totally confused. I cannot tell you that I heard the bomb sound. No, I heard nothing. I just felt that I couldn't breathe because, the weight of the ceiling was just, against me, and I was in bed next to my mother. She managed to escape, and thanks to her strength, and I think thanks for the love and the adrenaline that she felt in that moment, she saved my life. And I thought that there was an earthquake, man. I never expected a bomb, never in my life. I was just, you can hear a lot of shootings in Colombia, but not bombs. It didn't happen in that time. So we thought that it was an earthquake, and I thought that we were trapped in the basement because all the building fell. I don't know. I was just imagining things. I couldn't see anything. There was a lot of dust and glasses everywhere. Everything was destroyed. It's quite a surreal image, because when you go to bed, what's the last thing you look? You look your own ceiling, and suddenly somebody took it out, and now you just get up from bed and you see the sky. What happened here, man? It's like another miracle. And so this is the kind of stories that I took from my own experience and my own life to say that I should show a lot of respect, not only to my own life, but also to to the rest of the lives that were affected by all of this violence. So it was quite an experience, another miracle in my life. I have the pictures, and I'm willing to show with the public and with you some of them, because only when you can see them, you will see that how can you, still be alive after suffering that kind of situation. So it was amazing to survive and to, I remember that I walked, we were in a very high floor, but where we need to use the stairs, and the stairs were full of, broken glasses, and I wasn't wearing any shoes, and I cannot show you a single scar, man. And nothing happened to me, not even to my mother, not even to my little sister. So there's no other way to call this but as a miracle.
I'm curious. I've often wondered why Pablo didn't bomb the houses of the families of the Cali Cartel, because Gilberto called him the next day and he realized it was Cali. Why did he not retaliate right away and bomb their families' houses?
Well, my father was a man of his word, and he made a promise to his own enemies that the war was going to be against them, but not against their families. And even if they attacked his own family, he was willing to respect that. And he many times told me, I know where their sons live, I know their relatives, I know all the address, but I'm not going to hurt them because I made this promise. And it's another way to keep you safe. But, they never respect that condition. The only one who was still respecting that condition was my father, because they do attack us many times. They were hiring policemen to kidnap us and to make us a lot of harm. Even the army, there was a lot of corruption. The difference between my father and the Cali Cartel, let's say, it's my father was willing to take control of the country, fighting against the institutions, and the Cali Cartel was willing to do the same, but buying the institutions. That's the big difference, let's say. They have a more businessman approach for that kind of intentions that my father was more like a warrior in that, if you can call him like that.
And Manuela, she injured her ear in the explosion. And having read so much about Manuela when she was a kid and your dad playing with you guys, I often wonder now, how is your sister doing now?
Well, she's well. Actually, that's part of the myth. My little sister, thank God, she didn't suffer anything about her ear.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah. That's just part of the gossips, that you can hear in the media, and there are a lot of them. And my little sister is good. She's handling well her own life. So, but I know that she decided not to be so public as I do, because I don't know, we respect her decision, and she also supports us with everything that we are doing as a family. But we can understand her that, she was a little girl when all this happened, has different memories and experiences. Even if we suffered the same ones, of course, she was even younger, so she got more affected for sure. But at the same time, I was the one who got, affected in in my 2 ears, let's say. But I didn't realize this until recently, because I was just hearing a noise inside of me. I didn't know what was going on, and the noise stayed there like for 5 days. So I went to see the doctor, and I want to know what's going on, what happened. So they make me some tests, and they realized that I lost 50% of my hearing capacity in one of my ears and 60% in the other one. So I asked the doctor, but I can hear you perfectly well, and I'm not complaining that I cannot hear. So he explained to me that there are some frequencies that you can hear, and that. So he told me, I hope you're not planning to play the violin, because you will not be able to do it. But so I tell this guy, look, as long as I can hear you, for me, it's fine. So perhaps I can hear some music and I can lose some parts of it.
Do you think that injury came from the bombing of the house or from other situations?
for me, it was sure that it was, it was the only time in my life that I was, exposed to that kind of explosion. Just to remember, 1 kilometer away from the site, from the exact place of the explosion, all the glasses of the city, all windows were broken just because of the explosion. So imagine if you are exactly in the middle when that happens.
Wow.
It's I wonder how how I can still hear you well, man.
What do you say to all these young men who watch Narcos and want to be like your father?
Well, man, I should say that sadly they are not telling the truth about how we lived that experience, and they are not being accurate. They are not respecting my father's story, my country's story, and they are just glorifying him. They made a great product in terms of entertainment that has been very successful. Nobody can deny that. But also, it's not educating well the youngest audience, because they truly believe that everything they saw on Narcos is absolutely true. And as you told me in the beginning, I've been receiving hundreds and thousands of messages every single day through the social media. And most of them, they say, it's so cool. I just watched Narcos and I want to be like your dad. Like, it's just like, hey man, this is not Superman. I mean, this is a different story. And if you truly want to know the story, please come and join me and read my books, or just be present at one of my lectures, and I will tell you the truth, because I had the chance to be even somebody worse and dangerous than my father, but I didn't take that path because I was truly aware of the consequences. And I received great feedback from my books. The readers, the youngest readers, they sent me letters and they said that they were willing to be like my father, but only they stopped thinking like that after they have the opportunity to approach to my story through my books. So that's why I keep promoting my books, because I know that finally I handle to deliver a message that is totally responsible, that is not encouraging others to follow my father's examples in life, and that it's helping a lot of people to be aware of the consequences of trying to be involved in a business and in a life. My father is being portrayed like he's a very successful man. And I don't think, even if he made so much money, but what's the point? I don't know, what's success for you in life? I think that's success, at least for me. It's something that you can truly enjoy during all time. But if you can't, what's the purpose of having, tons of money, but you cannot enjoy any single dollar, and you are starving? But you, instead of, you are starving, and at the same time you have $4 million in cash in front of you, and you cannot buy just a single piece of bread with that money. So what's the point of, having all of those assets? It's not a good way to do it. And I tell those guys, and I invite them, and I said to them, look, if you feel talented enough to be a drug dealer, with half of your talent, you can be a very successful man in life, and you will have your freedom and your family to enjoy that.
Yeah, it ends in the prison, police, and death. That's what I tell the kids in this country. So as a kid for you then, what was it like growing up with hitmen around the house? I'm thinking of characters like Popeye, Earring, El Chapo, Mugre. These guys were babysitting you, playing games. What was that like?
Well, they were truly, as I call them, my killer knives. It's like I didn't have any friends. They were my friends. I grew up with most of them, and not with Popeye, because he was being part of the cartel, but later on, not from the beginning. But I know that he talked much more than he knew. That's the reality. But it was a very awkward situation. Imagine, I was just a kid surrounded by bodyguards, all of them consuming cocaine, marijuana, with guns in their hands, and not the best examples you will want to have for your kid. but that was the life that I was living. And of course, I didn't have an option. It was my place of birth. That's it. You know, you can choose your friends, but your family, that's something, at least as far as we know, we cannot do.
With the assassination of presidential candidate Galan, there was a chart drawn up by the cops, and they had like Pablo and Gacha at the top saying these are the guys responsible. But General Maza is in prison, Santo is in prison, and Maza was the equivalent to the head of the FBI. Santo was the politician, the liberal candidate. How did the people who the public thought were the good guys end up in prison for the murder they said your dad did?
Well, that's it's a very complex case, because a lot of people, of course, the authorities at the beginning, it was easy for them, everything that happened in Colombia, they just, accused my father of being responsible of. But, and many times, it was next to my father, and I used to say to him, hey, why don't you defend yourself? Why don't you say the truth? And he said, it will cost me another war against this family, the Castaño family, or the other family, just to defend myself. So it's better to keep it that way. And I also understood that my father was taking the power that was given to him just by the media. So that will make him look like even a more dangerous person. And he was using that in his own favor to force the government to do whatever he wanted, and also the politicians. But of course, in the middle, there's a lot of corruption. I know that General Maza was convicted for this criminal act against Luis Carlos Galán, the presidential candidate, and also who you call Santos is Santofimio, Alberto Santofimio, another politician. I wrote in my first book, about a short line about Santofimio. I should say, I don't like this guy, and I don't need to be his lawyer. He had his own lawyer, but I don't believe everything that I saw, that everything that comes from the Colombian justice and from the Latin American justice and from many other countries. You have to be very careful of what you read, because they said that he encouraged my father to kill Luis Carlos Galán. And let me tell you one thing. My father was a man who took his own decisions. He never asked for anyone's permission or approval. He just wanted Galán dead, and Galán was dead. One of his friends, of my father's friends, asked him, hey, Pablo, what are you going to do? Because Galán is going to be the next president of Colombia. And so my father answered to his friend, a dead man can't be a president. So he was taking control of Colombia. He was the man taking decisions. He was also dictating the decrees published by Gaviria's government. And let me tell you, there's a lot of decrees, 303, 2747, many government decrees that were published because my father was the one telling to the government what to say in his own favor, and how this will be made it's like a tailor-made dress for him. It's like just he could present to the authorities, surrender to them. It was politically correct. It was shown to the press. Pablo Escobar surrenders to the government, but it was exactly the opposite. That was how it was presented to the media. But the truth, it was that Colombia was surrendering to Pablo Escobar. That was the big difference. And of course, the details of the crime, I handled to talk a lot about this in my books. And I understand that it's difficult to understand how the ones who were supposed to be the good guys, finally they got involved into this. But there are a lot of side stories that relate them to Galán. Let's say something, I know that General Maza didn't want Galán to be the president, because the day that Galan will arrive to the presidency, the first guy who will be kicked out of the government and the power was going to be General Massa. So, you know, and of course he said, I am the most, I was one of the biggest enemies against Pablo Escobar. How should I help him, etc. But there was a lot of, you know, the Castaño brothers. The Castaño brothers, they had a lot of power, and they make, with the Mexican Gonzalo Rodriguez Gacha, they do a lot of the operation that finally got Galan killed. So there's a lot of stories. It's a very complex story because a lot of people is like in the middle, and it's difficult to understand. But you know, it's very interesting to bring the puzzle and all the pieces together, so we can rebuild the story and the image of what really happened.
Was Maza working for Cali?
Yes, yes. My father used to say that many times. Of course, Maza denies that, but you know, I've been talking with William Rodríguez Abadia, the son of the Cali Cartel, the son of Miguel Rodríguez, one of the bosses. And of course, you know, they own the country, truly own the country. The Supreme Court, the District Attorney Office, the government, the policemen, the militaries, they truly were the owners of Colombia. As I told you from the beginning, they were trying to, you know, to infiltrate all the Colombian institutions thanks to corruption, and they did it very well. And of course, my father was fighting against that, and he was just shooting everyone. So of course, I thought that the Cali Cartel was going to succeed, you know, for many years, but they just last for, let's say, 2 years after my father's death, you know.
Do you think Popeye exaggerated Santos' role in the Galan assassination for his own benefit so he could get out of prison?
Yeah, well, you know, it's this guy lied a lot, man, a lot. He was, you know, he was a bandit, you know, and bandits do things for money. And just, you know, he passed away, and I would like to leave him rest in peace. But I know bandits. I grew up between all of them. I know them, how they think, how they act, how they behave. And when this kind of bandit, without loyalty, they will do whatever it takes to have more money, and they will lie against you, against anyone you could ask if you gave them money. And so he was given information to the Colombian authorities about the activities of Medellin cartel from the year 1984, but he was part of the cartel only until 1988. So how could you trust a guy like him?
So out of all of the people who worked for your father, who was the most loyal?
Well, I think that I remember John Jairo Arias Tanscon, Pinina. Perhaps he was one of the most loyal men that he had, and even the most dangerous too. Even he dared to say one day that once the authorities or the enemies got him, Pablo was going to lose the war, and that was exactly what started to happen, because Pinina was the guy in the streets, you know, doing all the things for him. And there was another guy, but he was more like a friend. It was my uncle, Mario Henao, from my mother's side. And they were truly good friends, and my father was paying a lot of attention to Mario's advices, because perhaps he was the only one who wasn't applauding for his violence, and etc. So I think that the most important men in my father's life, in terms of, you know, his operations, let's say from the military part, was Pinina for sure, and from the friends part, from the good advice, and from trying to be a wiser man, and was Mario now, my uncle.
I was having lunch in a restaurant in Cali, Colombia, and 10 hitmen got to where I was, and it was a disaster. There were 6 people dead. And I decided to call my wife and say like goodbye to her because, you know, I don't know, something. And I pick up my cell phone, I call her. I talk to her, tell her that I love her and protect my kid. I don't know why I say that. And when I finished the call, immediately the guys got up, and then 2 of those guys start shooting at us. And unfortunately for me, I tried to, you know, get up. That saved my life because I would have been hit in my face. So. And you know, the inertia of the shots threw me back. So I fell in another table. That table comes on top of me, and unfortunately one of my friends got hit here, and he immediately, you know, all the blood was by my side. And then I lay down and I was like, you know, making that I was dead. But I was seeing this guy move from here, from there, and there were seconds, but for me it was like an hour, you know, this guy. And when the guy decided to go, you know, I called for help.
Right, so today we have got a exclusive interview with William, whose book we have just brought out. It's the son of the Cali Cartel, and we're going to be getting into a hell of a lot of detail about that shortly. But before I begin, you know, many of you are familiar with William's story if you've watched Narcos, which was a misrepresentation of the actual truth, and we're going to get to that as well. But this is a massive story because the Cali Cartel at the peak, they took over from Escobar and they were moving tens of billions in cocaine worldwide. It did become the biggest distribution cartel in the world. And many of you are familiar with the 4 heads of the Cali Cartel. So you've got Chepe, Pacho, and then you've got Miguel, which is William's dad, and then you've got Gilberto, his brother, the chess player. So only Miguel is the surviving one. Sadly, Gilberto died earlier. It was this year, wasn't it, that he died?
Yeah, he died the 1st of June of this year.
1st of June this year. Okay. So William was the acting head of the cartel when the surviving bosses went to jail. So can you imagine running a cartel that was shipping that much product and was worth, you know, the revenue in the tens of billions a year? So the story is going to be absolutely breathtaking. But a huge thank you for coming on, William.
No, Sean, thank you for inviting me. You know, it's a pleasure, and thank you so much for believing in my book and how we can, you know, make people interested in that and knowing this story, because I believe this kind of story has to be told so they don't repeat this, you know, because that's the problem. No, my story is a little bit more critical. I don't glorify like, you know, Netflix does. I try to tell the truth of the things that happen in our family and in this organization.
All right. And before we get to how this all began, then there is a story at the beginning of the book where there's an assassination attempt on your life. And for people interested in the book, link will be in the description box below this video, as will links for reecedry, who is managing William. So anyone wants to coordinate anything with William, go down in the description box and check out reecedry's email and links. So could you set up the scene for what happened that day of the assassination attempt?
Yeah, it happened in '96. It was May of '96. We was having some problems with another cartel, the North Valley Cartel. So I was having lunch in a restaurant in Cali, Colombia, and 10 hitmen got to where I was, and it was a disaster. There were 6 people dead. and I was the only one who survived this attempt in my life. I received 8 bullets in my body, and only God changed me, for, because he was the one who protected me and gave me a second chance to change my life. It was a very critical moment in this story for me because, I lost a lot of people that I care about. I lost 2 of my greatest friends, and I lost some people and my bodyguards that were close to me. And it changed my life, forever, because, sometimes you believe you're untouchable, and in situations like this, wakes you up of that trance that I was, because I believe I could do anything and I was invincible. And God taught me that day that he was the only power and changed my life. It's not easy surviving that. And psychology way, it was very difficult for me because, like I said, wounds in your body heal, but those things are there forever. Those memories will stay there, and it really changed my life, because it taught me a lesson, but it was not so simple, Sean, because I was not, you were not my boss or my partner or my father, so I had some responsibility, and I had to continue try to help them to run this organization, in the part of the political corruption, and try to try to fight a war that was lost at the moment that we started, because when you fight against the Americans, it's difficult because in the end you have to make a bargain with them, or they'll finish you off, and that's what happened. My father and uncle decided to go in a war, there are different types of war, and we went to the United States, like a legal war, and in the end we want to lose. So that's what I say. We began that confrontation with them, and in the end we were going to lose because they have the power and they destroyed us in the end.
All right. So on this day then of the assassination, can you remember how that day started for you? Were you with your family?
Yeah, it was. This started the day after, because those guys hit on 2 of our guys who ran all our power, in the street, and I don't know why I believe that there was like a normal thing that happened to one of those guys that work with us. But I should have been, alert. And that day I wake up and I was going to go to a nearby town of Cali. It's called Buga, because there's like a saint there I was devoted to. And I was having, breakfast, and my friend that I was going to go with him to that city came to my house. And then my aunt called me. I used to run the soccer team of my family. We had a soccer team called America Cali. And we were doing a big business with a player. We were selling to Portugal. So she told me that she needed me in the office. So I decided not to go to visit the saint. And then I went to the office of the America of Cali, and I did the deal. And then I decided that it was time to go to lunch. And then I invited them to a Brazilian restaurant. And that's when this unfortunately situation happened.
Who were the people you had invited to lunch, and what were your relationships with them?
One was my friend, a close friend of mine that I was, he was my buddy when we were 15 years old. And the other one was a guy who worked with me, but he was like a friend too, because he always was with me, flying to Bogota and helping me with my business. And one of our top men that used to run our guys in the street, I invited him to lunch. There was my cousin too. He was going to go, but unfortunately he was called and he didn't go. And then we went to that restaurant to find some of them, to find their death.
So when you go to lunch like that, because of the business you were in back then, what security precautions are in place?
But you know that's the main thing of this story, because you know I believe I was untouchable. I believe nobody could to do nothing because I was Miguel Rodríguez son. I didn't have precaution at those moments. I only went with two guys. There were my bodyguards and the other guy that I told you, Nicole was his name, my friend. So I should have known and being surrounded for 10 or 15 guys, but that day I gave the opportunity, and that's why I lost.
Okay, and you said this was a hit by the North Valley
Cali
Cartel.
Cartel.
Can you explain then to people who are or who were the North Valley Cartel and why you guys were in a war with them?
Because this is cyclical, no? First were Escobar, the main guy. We helped them destroy him, and then we became the number one. And then this business is stupid for me, because when a guy is up there, you want to take him down, and when you take him down, you're gonna get the hit. So there's something that I don't understand. No, you should have an umbrella, and the umbrella will help you, you know, survive. But these guys, everybody wants to be number one. So these guys starting, you know, like making up stories about us. My father and uncle were in jail. Chepe was in jail, and we didn't have the same power, because you start losing, no? Because you start, you know, we start retiring from the drug business, and you start to lose money, power, and these guys were, you know, getting in the place that we were. They were the new drug lords, and we got in for some, you know, people talking things that were not true, and something that Chepe did too to one of those guys. So it was like, you know, they started like making up stories to try to get in a conflict with us, and I had to go to a lot of meetings, you know, to try to clarify, you know, some stuff they were saying, and that's when my life became a hell, because I always was called for those guys, and I have to go, no, this is not this is not that, you know. But I believe when you say the truth, you always will survive and get out. But in the end, this is a very dangerous business, and in the end, if you don't be aware, you're gonna be hit, or you're gonna lose everything.
Okay, so how far into the meal were you when these guys struck?
No, I finished. I was finished. I was asking for the check. You know, something happened, or something crazy happened, you know. And I decided to call my wife and say like goodbye to her, because, you know, I don't know, something. And I pick up my cell phone. I call her. I talk to her, tell her that I love her, and protect my kid. I don't know why I say that. And when I finished the call, immediately the guys got up, and then two of those guys start shooting at us. And unfortunately for me, I tried to, you know, get up. That saved my life, because I would have been hit in my face. So I got hit here, and down. And so I don't know. It was fate. No, I don't know. Nobody. It's very difficult to survive one shot. You know. Now I got hit 8 times, so it was a miracle.
Do you remember how the assassins were dressed?
Yeah, the guy who hit me, and that's what that image will be for life in my head. He had like blue jeans, and he had like blue shoes. And when I fell down, because I got up, and you know, the inertia of the shots threw me back. So I fell in another table. That table comes in top of me, and unfortunately one of my friends got hit here, and he immediately, you know, all the blood was by my side. And then I lay down, and I was like, you know, making that I was dead. But I was seeing this guy move from here, from there, and there were seconds, but for me it was like an hour, you know, this guy. And when the guy decided to go, you know, I called for help. I tried to get up, but one bullet broke my knee, and I couldn't get up. If I didn't broke my knee, I would have gotten up, because I don't know. You know, I didn't understand, because when I fell down, the first thing when you are in those situations, that's the way you sing. No, the first thing you sing is in God. And the first word I say, God, save me, my little kid. This is not fair. That's what I said in my mind. And I tell you, when I finished to say that, I didn't know why I felt so calm. I don't know if my blood was coming out or not, but I felt calm, and I know in that moment I was not gonna die.
Had you ever been shot before, William, or was that the first time?
No, it was the first time.
Okay, and when the bullets come in you, did your adrenaline just go so high and the pain comes later, or did the pain come right away?
No, you didn't feel pain. You know, I felt like something was in my stomach, stuck in my stomach. But one day I was, this is something I'm gonna tell. I met a guy who was a top leader of the M19, that he surrendered himself, one of the top guerrillas groups. And he was a friend of mine, and the guy was shot too. So the guy was so crazy, and he told me, right, William, that when you're dying, that's cool because you start going in that trance that you are in, because, blood is coming out and then you're relaxed and that's it. I believe that was the way I was calm because the blood was coming out. I lost almost half of the blood in my body.
When you made the call home before the shooting commenced and you said goodbye, do you think that subconsciously you had picked up on some kind of danger?
Maybe. I don't know why I did that. Like I was saying goodbye to my wife. Yeah, so it's crazy, because I believe that day was my day. I think I should have died that day. I don't know why God decided to save me because that day I was gonna die. Because nobody survives something like that. God is not there for you.
So did you say that there were 3 other people with you and they died? Yeah,
we were sitting 3 and me 4. And downstairs were 2 guys that were killed with silencer. And the other 3 guys were my 2 buddies and my bodyguard were killed.
And what about the assassins? Did any of them get killed, or did they manage to escape?
No, because remember that day I gave them the chance. I never give chance to them because from that day on, I always were protected by a lot of people around me. Because that's we call it in Spanish la hora del bobo, like the hour of the dumb. Everybody has in a moment in their life, and that was mine. I gave the chance, and that's why they got to me.
All right, so you're on the floor. You can see the blood now. You can't feel the pain because you're adrenaline. What's going through your head at that point?
No, when these guys ran away, and the first is to call for help, and unfortunately for me, there was my aunt was there. The sister of my father was having lunch in the same restaurant, so I called her, and she comes and look at me, and she goes run, and I told her call an ambulance, and then they start like thinking we cannot put you down because they're gonna come back and hit you, and I say no, get me downstairs because it was a second floor. And then they come down and they put me on the floor. And then, some like a miracle. I believe 2 police guys came in a motorcycle. And I said, these guys are going to hit me again. No, these guys were like angels that came in. And the guy came and say, hey, what happened? And so, hey, I'm this guy. Please don't stay here. Don't move from my side. So the police guy with it was like a changa, I believe it was there, and he was by my side. And then the ambulance comes, and they want to take one of my bodyguards that has a bullet in the head because he was alive, still was alive. And then the guy didn't want to take me, so I call him and say, hey, you can take us too. I can survive, So no, and I got him from here and throw him down. Say, hey man, I can save myself. So they put my bodyguard Fernando in I don't know how, the stretcher you call it, and put him there. And I went, like you see, the ambulance has like a seats all around, and I went laying down there. So they took me to the hospital. And like when I got there in 2 minutes, my wife was there, and then my cousin was there. And they say, what happened? And I told my cousin, those are, sorry about the word, those are the word I'm going to say, those two motherfuckers, you have to hide.
So it's, yeah, go on, keep going.
Yeah, and then my wife was there and she told me, and I was so calm. I don't know why. I believe it was the adrenaline. It was, like I was dying and my blood was going down. I was very calm. And then another miracle happens. That's something when you're not gonna die, you're not gonna die. My medical general medic was there. He was gonna operate somebody, and then he sees me, and immediately the guy throws me in the operation room. And the guy saved my life. The guy was like, when I saw the guy, it was like I saw God. The guy didn't let me die that day.
You had a few guardian angels that day. Going back to the other guardian angels then, it's quite common in Colombia for a hitman to dress as a cop. And you said as these cops were approaching you then, you thought it was going to happen again.
Yeah, it was, I say this is it. But, unfortunately, the guy was not involved in the hit, and the guy was an angel that sat there and protected me.
But for that moment when you thought it was going to happen again, did you just brace and accept that there was nothing you could do?
Yeah, I cannot do nothing. I cannot do nothing because I cannot move myself. I don't have nothing. So yeah, it was like, if it happened, it happened. No, it was God's decision. No, but he decided the opposite, to let me live.
But for a second there, it must have been terrifying.
Yeah, but I don't know why I was so calm. I don't explain myself. I from that moment that I tell you that I talked to this guy, that I talked to God, I was calm. I knew I was not gonna die that day. I knew that was not my day. I don't know if I put it in my head and that saved me, but I was positive 100% that I was not gonna die.
So at this point then, where were Miguel and Gilberto?
They were in prison. They were in Bogota in a prison called La Picota. They were there. It was very hard for them, Yeah, but things happen, and I went to operation. I wake up like the operation was like 5 hours. Like at 8 o'clock, I wake up. I was my wife was on my side, and then my father calls, and the first thing that I told my father that day is, Father, I'm alive. This is a war we cannot win. And I knew those guys were hearing me. That was the message that I have to give, because if I would have said something else, maybe they would come again for me. So I knew what I had to say, and really it was the truth. I knew that in that moment, those guys, we lost that war, because they had the police, they had the guerrillas, they had a lot of people. And we had a lot of innocent family that would be lost if we decided to go to war with those guys.
What was your father's reaction when you first told him that?
Yeah, he calmed himself. He was, but he told me how I was feeling, how did I feel, and I said, don't worry, Father, I'll survive. Think about the other family members. And unfortunately, we could, resolve this issue with these people. It was difficult because, there were people who will help you and people who wanted war, because the guys who made the hits, they charge when you kill people. That's the way when they make money. So it was complicated, no? But in the end, sense came true, and then we decided to join, join forces to fight against projects in Congress that were very important against drug trafficking. And those guys wanted me to, help them with that, because I had the experience. So that saved my life too, I believe, But there were very difficult moments, Sean, for me, because, I was, every day was, surviving death, surviving prison. But that's the life that I choose. And that's why I made so much mistakes. And I had to suffer for my bad actions.
So are you saying, from their perspective then, in the immediate aftermath, it was an unsuccessful hit because you survived?
Yeah, sure. Because in the end, they say I was not the object, but it was incredible. Those guys will do a hit and don't know who was there. No, that's stupid to know when people who were very organized, people who ran police and everything, they knew I was there, you know. But in the end, I was survive, and some people help us, and we could resolve this issue, no? Because in the end, when you cannot make when you're gonna go to war, you have to think about it, because sometimes there are wars that when you're not gonna win the war, you have to make, you know, peace talks and bargain, and that's what we did. And because we had to survive, there were a lot of innocent people. We had a lot of people, you know, easy to be, you know, hit. We got a very big family, and there are people that didn't have nothing to do with what we were doing.
So you just said that they said you weren't the target. Who did they say was the target?
My main guy, the guy who ran, you know, he was a guy who had a lot of people in the street, and that's what they want to take him down. But I believe the guy who wanted the war, his name was Varela. He wanted to take out two birds with one stone, because this guy was a guy who ran out of people in the street, and I was the political power of this organization in that moment.
Wow. This is such a compelling story, William. I appreciate all the detail you've given us on this, and it must be traumatic.
Yeah, but I'm telling all the story in the books, and nobody is gonna read the book.
I think they certainly will. It's right here. It's right here. Go down to the description box and check out the link, because there's a hell of a lot more detail in the book. All right, let's go back then and just set the stage for this, because in the Western speaking world, the people think it all just revolves about Pablo Escobar, and they've seen the narcos and the DA go in and they're the good guys and they kick the bad guys' asses, but it's far more complex than that. I mean, the whole thing goes back to the violence in Colombia, doesn't it? There was a civil war called the violence. And could you just tell the viewers a little bit about that war, the violence, what it was about?
The problem, we have to go back to, let's go back to 78 to 84. That was like a paradise for everybody in Colombia, because everybody was making money. Drug trafficking was like almost legal, because, you know, the banks are making money, the rich people are making money with these new, you know, rich guys in the block. But then this guy Escobar decided that he wanted to be president of Colombia. The great mistake he made, because the guys who ran our country for more than 100 years, there are 10 families in Colombia. They want to permit that somebody who come from there will, you know, be in power in Colombia. So when he was outside of political, they wanted him because they were receiving a lot of, you know, benefits. But now he's getting involved in stuff that he shouldn't get involved, and then the problem started. He ran, he won, he was a congressman, and then they took out a lot of stuff that he had in the past. You know, he was catched with some drugs in a moment. Then they put that in the medias, and then this guy got crazy, and then decided he was going to make revenge against the political who were not with him. So he started to kill, you know, important people, and then he started putting bombs in Colombia. And now the thing that was good, you know, I'm not saying it was good, I'm saying that that's what people believe in those moments. And now this is like satanized, right? That this is, you know, a bad thing, and everybody had to suffer the consequences. So this guy made war against the government, against the establishment, against everybody, and a lot of, you know, he blew up a plane. He put bombs of 500 kilos of dynamite in the street. So it was a very hard moment, and the only guys who in the moments decided to, you know, try to, not because they wanted, but because now he decided that now he wants to fight with the Cali Cartel. And so the only people who put, you know, their chess against Escobar for the Cali Cartel, and then the war started. When everybody was afraid of this guy, my father and uncle and their associates were the only guy who had the courage to, meet this guy in the level that he wanted to fight. Because when you start fighting with no master like this guy, you have to be a master. Because you're gonna lose your life. You have to change your values and fight. And he told my dad and uncle that he will kill him in 5 days, and my father and uncle kill him in 5 years. So that's a truth, and I only don't say it. That's something that everybody knows, that the Cali Cartel was the main factor, not the DA. The Cali Cartel was the main factor to kill Escobar, because we're the guy who were putting the money and putting the information to bring him down.
All right, let's go over some of this a bit more slowly then. What was it like for your dad and Gilberto, his brother, who became the bosses? What was it like for them as kids growing up in Colombia?
Very difficult, because in Colombia, it's a country that has half of the population is in absolute poverty. How do you say poverty?
Poverty.
Yeah. So it's complicated, to be able to go up in the scale. You have to be or a famous singer, or a famous soccer player, or a politician, or you are born in a cradle of gold. That's the only way you can go up. So in those moments, it was very hard for them. My uncle was the guy who started everything. He decided to throw out his dad when he was 16 years old, I believe, and he decided to throw out his dad because he didn't provide for his family. And he took the responsibility of the family, and he worked. He worked, and then he was a very greedy and ambitious man, and then he decided to get involved in a lot of criminal activities. And my father was different, because my father, my uncle wanted him to be a lawyer, a famous law person, and my father started studying, and my uncle was sacrificing himself so his brother could be, a famous attorney. But in the end, this thing gets you involved, because sometimes my uncle needed some help from my dad, and then my dad got involved, and then but in the start, my uncle was the main guy, he was the guy who initially this crime organization with Chepe Santa Cruz in 73, and they were putting cocaine in New York and controlling that market from 73 to like 80. There was like the main, cocaine boom in New York, and they were the guys who were involved in that. And then a lot of stuff happened over here in the United States. The authorities started put more attention into cocaine, because in the start, in the 70s, they were more, in the Mafia Italian with the heroin. So in 80, they had a lot of problems here. They almost captured my Chepe, they almost captured my uncle over here. And then, they go back to Colombia, they continue. Then Escobar decided to kill the Ministry of Justice, and then everything blew up. Then my uncle decided to go and hide in Spain, and then he's captured in Spain. And then that's when my father became number one, and was the guy who brought the cartel from here to the top, because he got a lot of power because of this fight that he had with the American legal fight that he had with the Americans. He had to corrupt a lot of politicians, important people in Colombia, and then he became, I believe, one of the most powerful men in that area. My father was never the man who more money had in the drug business, but he was the man he was the guy who had more power.
That's interesting. You said that Gilberto was involved in all kinds of criminal activity before the drug trafficking. What criminal activity was he involved in?
He was he was robbing, you know, he was that's called like in Colombia piratería terrestre. That's like being a road pirate. He was robbing, you know, different merchandise, robbing stuff in different trucks and selling them. And then he became involved in activities of kidnapping, a lot of stuff, you know, micro traffic. And then in 73, he decided to bring in the first 2 kilos to the States. And then he became, you know, one of the most important drug traffickers in the world.
So you said that your father was more studious then, you know, he had law career planned out. What was, if his brother was getting into criminal activity, did that cause problems between the brothers? I mean, what was their relationship like back then?
No, I never saw a relationship to two brothers like they had. No, they were. I never saw my dad and uncle fight. I never saw a discussion. Maybe they had it in private, but I never saw that. They were one respected him like his father, and the other one respected him like the guy who saved him from the Americans in '84. You know, the guy who robbed them, because my uncle should be extradited, being brought to the United States in '84 from Spain. But my father, you know, did everything and was able to bring his brother back to Colombia and save them, you know, from in those days from being in American jail. So I believe there was an amazing relationship. I never saw one like that. And it's admirable, no? The two brothers can love themselves so much and help them, but they, you know, be very close and be very, you know, be able to you know, fight the ego, no? Because sometimes it's hard to fight the ego when you're running in a top criminal organization.
The four bosses of the Cali Cartel was your father, his brother Gilberto, Chepe, and Pacho. Who joined next? Was it Chepe?
No, the organization started my uncle and Chepe, then my father came in, and Pacho came in like in 84, 85, when my father was in charge. He was the main guy who was receiving the cocaine for my dad, and it was selling in New York. So they began very close. So that's why he became member like in 85, 86.
So
but the original three guys are Gilberto, Chepe, and Miguel.
So are you saying that Chepe then came in before your father? In that case, was Chepe, was he a crime partner for Gilberto before the drug trafficking? Is that how they knew each other?
Yeah. They were the associates from you know, like the 70s. You know, they were very close.
So Narcos shows Chepe as this larger than life character, you know, very brave, action. There's always action around him. What was he like in real life?
He was a joker, you know. He was always making fun. He was, you know, he was a very dangerous man, but he was always a good character. And I know him when I'm 12 years old, you know, because he's in the parties of my family, and I always liked him, you know, because he was a very likable guy. But he was very dangerous. But he was a very jovial guy. He was, you know, always making fun of you, always laughing. He was a very likable guy.
So did Gilberto and Chepe, did they have their own crew doing these robberies? Did they have a lot of guys with them before the trafficking?
No, they were together, and they had a band, you know. They were a crew, and they were part of the crew.
And then Pacho, what was he like in real life?
I didn't have a lot of contact with that guy. I saw him like 5 or 6 times in my life. You know, he was like most, you know, very quiet guy, very, you know. And my father didn't like us to be around him.
What year were you born?
I was born in 1965.
So what's your first memories?
My first memories, no, not very good memories, because, you know, I had a very difficult childhood because the relationship entre my father and my mother was never good. My mother was a very difficult person, and my father was a bohemian guy. He wanted to, be a party all the time. So it was very difficult relationship. It was not a close one. And when I was 5 years, I almost died because they had to, take one of my kidneys. And so, it was my childhood was not very good. Then my mother makes a radical decision and decided to bring me to United States and leave my father. She almost kidnapped me, She brought me here without my father. I didn't saw my father for 5-6 years. And it was hard, no? And then we went back to Cali, and then I looked for my father, and then I decided not to live with her or even him. I decided to go and live with Gilberto's wife. And I believe that was like the best, time that I had, because really, like from 79 to 84, 85, when things were like, no, 84 were, normal. We live a normal life. It was like the best memories that I have, that because it was normal. We were normal kids, studying, playing soccer. But then came this situation at Gilberto, and that changed our lives.
So when you left for America, how old were you?
Like 6.
And when you came back, how old were you?
11, like 11.
And did you notice the difference in the standard of living because the drug money was coming in then when you came back?
Sure. My father in those moments, was one. He was, like I say, in the night and the day, he was a very successful businessman because he had 3 or 4 different companies, big companies. He had a soccer team, He was very, known for everybody. He was famous in the city. But in the night, he was one of the drug lords of the world, That was they did a lot of life, in those moments. And they knew how to run themselves. They knew how to, people didn't talk. I found out they were involved in this activity of drug trafficking in 84 when Gilberto is captured in Spain. We had like some rumors, but in the end, it was a normal life, and it was a good life for us. And so you're not asking questions. You're, because you live good. You only have to study to get benefits. So that's, for us, it was normal. And my father and uncle in those days, if you see them, they were only running around with 1 or 2 guys.
All right, William. So from what you just said then, you were about 19 years old when you realized what
I'm like 18 years old.
18. And just to give the backstory for that then, so the highest level official ever to be assassinated in those years was the Minister of Justice, Lara Bonilla, by Escobar, which caused many cartel leaders to flee Colombia. Now, before we get to the story of your father going to Spain and his brother going to Spain, what, did Pablo Escobar consult the Cali bosses? Did he let them know he was going to assassinate Lara Bonilla?
No. In those moments, they didn't know nothing about that. And then when that happened, everybody had to, like fly away. I believe my uncle made a mistake. He should have stayed in Colombia because in the end they were gonna go against Medellin, the government. But he decided to go to Spain, and I believe that was one of his great mistakes, because when he was captured over there, everybody knew really who Gilberto Rodríguez was, even us, as a family. It's one of the biggest drug lords in the world, because nobody knew. Everybody was talking about Escobar, and no, Escobar didn't ask nobody whenever he did something. He did it. Then he brought us to meetings when my father was involved and told him that he wanted to do that. And then my father told him that it was his decision, that we were not gonna get involved in that our fight was a legal fight. But I believe that was like that started like break up the relationship because we didn't follow him.
Hey, so if you're enjoying this podcast, William's book is available worldwide, Son of the Cali Cartel. It is mind-blowing. It's on Amazon as an ebook, audiobook, and a paperback. And you saw the Cali Cartel as represented in Narcos. A lot of that was BS. William lays it down, what really happened. His dad was one of the leaders of the biggest coke cartel in the world at that time. And when his dad went to prison, William was running it. And it starts out with the assassination attempt on William, where he gets shot up and his friends die. So again, check out William's book, Son of the Cali Cartel. Links will be in the description box below this video on the YouTube version. Cheers.
And in the end, he was gonna find something to go against us, because this is the way he thought. He believed he was invincible and he can fight. You cannot fight a war against everybody at the same time, because in the end you're gonna lose. So that's what happened to Pablo, no? Yeah, he fought. Yeah. He was fighting with 5 or 6 organizations, with the government, the guerrillas, the Cali Cartel, the other people that were surrounding him. So in the end, you have to lose. When you lose I believe he lost his head.
What's interesting then is that Pablo Escobar's business partners were the Ochoa brothers, and when you guys' bosses went to Spain, didn't they go with the Ochoa's brothers? Wasn't Jorge Ochoa?
We wanted the Ochoa's brother, Jorge Luis, because my uncle knew him from. My uncle was a friend of Jorge Luis, because they were involved in a bank in Panama in the 80s, and so he knew them. Then he met over there Jorge Luis in Spain, and then they got caught.
Okay, so now they've been caught and they're facing extradition to America. So what legal strategy was employed so that they wouldn't be extradited to America?
My father decided to, take the same crime that my uncle did in the United States, and he opened the same case in Colombia. So, because the crime started in Colombia and finished in the United States. So that's what he did. So the United States was asking him for this, and then my father made up this other case, and this judge was asking for my uncle in extradition from Colombia. So that was the strategy that he started, but it was a very crazy and hard process. A lot of money was spent to try to save my uncle, and a lot of corruption was done in Spain and Colombia to achieve this goal.
So this case that was made up then, did it involve bull smuggling?
No, that was Jorge Luis. Jorge Luis Ochoa, that was what he did. There were different strategies. No, our strategy was the same crime that my uncle was charged in the United States for bringing cocaine over here was open in Colombia. It was about cocaine. Jorge Luis was about bullfighters. Fighting.
I see. Okay, yeah. So he managed to get sent back to America as well. So are you saying then that money ended up with the judges in Spain to make that happen?
Not the judges, but a lot of people with a lot of influence in that country. They were the guys who got the money and helped my father achieve this hard and difficult fight, win this battle, no? Because in the end it was a battle that we won.
All right, so you're 18, you find this out. What goes through your head?
Well, it was crazy. It blew up not only mine, my other, I believe some of my cousin knew, but the one who was almost the same age of mine, we didn't know. So it was very hard for us. We, felt betrayed, because in the end was, everybody was now putting the finger in us. That's what we believe, no? Because, you start like making up, everybody's looking at us. But in the end, it was our family. It was our uncle. We loved him, and they were good with us. We had a good life. You know, we had everything we wanted. We study and be. You know, that was like our part of the bargain. We have to you know bring, because it was like a contract we had with my uncle. This we is that if we achieve and be good students and achieve our goals, we will get you know, things and it changed. You know, that's like what he taught us. No, that everything we have to win it, and that I believe it was a very good way to the way he you know broke us up, because in the end that they make us people, responsible people. No, and what I tell you, so in the end, we, you know, we decided to be loyal to, you know, sit beside them and try to be loyal and accomplish, go to Spain, spend time with my uncle. When he came back to Colombia, every Saturday, we have to be in the jail, you know, from 8 o'clock of the morning to 4 o'clock of the afternoon, you know, trying to be with him and being loyal to our family, you know, and in those moments, you know, I saw that relationship with my father and uncle, and my father was a lawyer, so that's when I decided to be a lawyer.
What was it like visiting him in Spain?
You know, it was difficult because the jails in Spain are hard, like here, like in United States. I believe in United Kingdom must be the same, you know. I never was in a jail before, but it was, you know, it was a mirror here, and we have to talk about, you know, pressing a button. It was very hard, you know, to see him that way, but in the end, there was, you know, the faith that he you know brought up to him.
Was he confident about his case, or was he worried?
Yeah, very worried. You know, it was I believe it was 70-30. You know, United States will get him, but you know, my father never surrendered, and he achieved that.
So when your father got back, did he have to go in the prison in Colombia for a period of time?
Yeah, when my uncle comes back, and like my uncle goes back like in 85, something like that, and he has to stay like 2 years in prison to 97, to 87. Sorry, so 87, from 85 to 87 in jail, and then in 87 he was released.
Okay, and what was your father doing during that time?
He was managing the Cali Cartel and part of the legal business. No, my uncle was like the guy who was more involved in running the legal business. He was, you know, now he's in Colombia, so now he's running the legal business. My father is running the other business, the legal one.
And what was the Cali Cartel's relationship with the government like during those years?
Good, because, you know, we were spending a lot of money, you know, bribing them and being close to them. We were, you know, allies in those moments, because they help us, you know, achieve this goal of bringing my uncle back from Spain.
How did things deteriorate with Pablo Escobar and you guys?
Something happened in New York. 2 employees, one from Pacho Herrera and one from him, got involved in a conflict. I believe it was for a girl or something like that. And then I believe Pacho's guy killed this guy, and then Pablo asked for the head of this man, and then Pacho didn't want to surrender him, and then now Escobar not only wants the guy, he wants Pacho too. And then my father and uncle said, we don't surrender our friends. If you want to fight, we can fight. And then they found out that he was going for them. So that's when the war started.
What about Virginia Vallejo? Was she sleeping with Escobar and sleeping with Gilberto? For people who don't know who she is, she's a very famous TV presenter.
That's what they say. I don't know. I cannot say yes or no, but that's what people say.
Okay. So as things deteriorated with Escobar, then how did your life change?
Was changed radical, man, because, you know, I only was, you know, we were running around with one guy, and then I have like 4 guys behind me. I have 5 or 4 guys, bodyguards. All my family now. Now we used to have like 2, 3 guys in our security. Now we have like 100, and then life changed forever, because now we have this guy in top of us. And we have this awful world, with people with guns around us. But that's the only way we can survive.
What were the first attacks Escobar launched against Cali?
He started burning our drugstores, our pharmacies, and he started burning them in Medellin, and trying to get to my father and uncle. No, there were a lot of people coming and going from Medellin to Cali trying to assassinate my father and uncle, and then the same. No, they were sending people to Medellin to try to hit Escobar.
There's still a lot of noise, William, from the table. Is there like something on the table that's making the noise?
Let me take it out. Now it's better?
Okay, yeah. All right, so the war's heating up with Cali and Escobar, and the government now, are they coming after Escobar only? And are you guys, joining with the government against Escobar?
And first it was that way, no? First it was only the government against Escobar, and we helping the government. And in '89, this guy and El Mexicano Gacha decided to kill Galam, one of our president, candidates from Colombia. And then another, big wave came against drug trafficking, against the government. And then I believe that saved my uncle and father's life, because they had to hide themselves. They were not looking so hard for them, but they had to, not be in their houses, they had to be mobile. And then I believe that saved them their life, because my father was always in the same place, and Escobar was, in the end, he was going to get to him. So that's, unfortunately, it's a very sad part of the story of our country, but in the end, I believe it saved my father's uncle's life.
Do you know how the assassination of Galam was organized by Gacha?
They bribed one of his close bodyguards, and he knew where he's gonna be there. But I believe he's suiciding himself, because he knew they were gonna kill him, and then he still went to that part of the country was the domain of Gacha, and he shouldn't not be there. So and they killed him.
So do you think he was partially responsible for his own death then, because he
No.
knew the risk?
No. It's because it's crazy to say that, because he shouldn't be. He should have been able to go anywhere he wanted, but in the end, it was a very difficult zone. It was very, very brave. I don't know, him trying to go there, but in the end, it was one of a great mistake, because he was killed.
Okay, so in the West, some key figures in the story are often left out, and people are not very familiar with the Castaño brothers. Could you explain to people who they were?
They were like a faction of the right wing. They were fighting a war against the guerrillas, the left wing. And the Castaños became paramilitaries in the 80s, because
we got the noise again, William.
The FARC killed their father, and then they become involved, and they become one of the high groups of right wing, and fought a war against the guerrillas.
Okay, and in the beginning, they had a good relationship with Pablo Escobar, didn't they?
Yeah, they were working with him, and they were against us. But in the end, they found out that he was going to kill them, and they came over here to the side of my father and uncle. And then there were the guys who helped with my father and uncle putting the money, build the Pepes. The Pepes were the guys who, in the end, finished off Escobar's organization.
Okay, so do you believe then that Pablo Escobar starting to kill his business associates was the beginning of the end for him, because he killed other people before the Castaños realized.
Yeah, because the guy, you know, he at the end he made so much chaos in Colombia. He killed so many people. He blew up our airplane. In the end, he got what he wanted. You know, he got a prison that he built, and he was safe there. It was very difficult to get to him because he was, you know, protective with police in the army, in the government. So I believe he lost it killing those two men, those two best partners. You know, those guys were very high objects for my father and uncle in the war against him, because all the guys were giving the money to fight the war against us. And I don't know, these guys lost it. He decided to kill them because those guys were just bored, not to giving all their money to this guy to fight wars against everybody. And then I believe that was one of the most important mistakes that Escobar, the second most important mistake that Escobar made, you know, because in that moment he lost the war. You know why? Because people who knew his organization, you know, they were, you know, sometimes working together, decided to come over here. So now we know how he operates, who the guys are, and it was easy to, you know, finish them off.
So you're talking about the assassination of the Moncado and Galliano factions at the cathedral, and these are people that he was really close to. And Roberto,
I believe in the list there were 3 or 4 in the list of my uncle and dad, you know, to hit, because we're the guys who put in the money to fight the war against us, you know. So I believe it was one of the greatest mistakes, because the people who were around the Moncadas and Galliano came over here to Cali to ask for protection. And now we know how he operated, who were the close person he had, where they hide, and so it was easy to finish him off.
And one of those people was Don Berna. Who was Don Berna, if you could tell the people?
Don Berna was one of the Moncada's main guys, and the guy, or Gallianos, I don't know which of the two factions. I believe it was more of the Gallianos. And then he became, you know, one of the main guys for us to be involved in the persecution in Escobar. And he was infiltrated in the group of the police that was against Escobar, the Grupo de Búsqueda. And he was operating with them, with the police group, you know, against Escobar, and did a lot of, and he was the day they killed Escobar in the operation.
Yeah, so I've read Don Berna's book, Killing the Boss, and he describes going out to Cali to meet the Cali guys for the first time. He was apprehensive to make this alliance. Do you remember? Did you ever meet Don Berna? Do you remember any of that?
I met Don Berna, but after that, you know, I met Don Berna in '96 before my hit, in a meeting that I was with the Castaño when they kill Chepe. I had to go and had a meeting with them, and I saw Berna 2 times in my life. That day and another day, like in 2001, something like that. But the first time I saw Berna was the day that I had the meeting with the Cali the North Valley Cartel leaders in the right wing Castaños faction in Monteria. I had that meeting.
Okay, could you describe who Los Pepes were and how they started?
Los Pepe were perseguidos for, you know, persecuted for Pablo Escobar. Those guys were the partners of the Moncada and the Galliano, and in some paramilitaries like the Castaño brothers. There was that group that was formed to annihilate, how do you say the word? Annihilate? To destroy Escobar. And it was all these people were financed by my father and uncle in the Cali Cartel.
Yeah, because the US tries to, you know, if people go back and read books like Killing Escobar, US Special Forces, the DEA, the CIA, they're all trying to take credit for it. But actually, it was financed by the Cali Cartel. On the ground, you've got the Castaño brothers, you've got Don Berna, you've got Los Pepes. But they were working in collaboration with the police, weren't they? Because they had the equipment, to track him.
Yeah, they say, I think DA was more important in the falling of the Cali Cartel than in the Medellin falling, because the DA was giving information and was giving some equipment to authorities to find this guy, right? And I believe, like, let's say the American authorities had 20% of Escobar, destroying Escobar. I believe the government, Colombia government, had another 20%, and the Cali Cartel and the Pepes, those guys, the 60% of destroying Escobar. That's the truth of the story. It's not only I say it; a lot of people have said it, and that's the real story, right? Because that's how Americans work. They don't care. They hook up with somebody to destroy the organization, then they go for you. And then when they're with you, they're trying to, with this other organization, try to make alliance to destroy you. And that's the way Americans destroy, all these organizations.
So how did you hear about Escobar's death?
Excuse me? I didn't hear you.
When did you hear that Pablo Escobar was dead?
I was in a meeting of my firm of lawyers. We were talking about some legal problems that we had to resolve. And then somebody called me and told me that Escobar was dead. And immediately I called my father, and he confirmed the death of Escobar.
Okay, so in Don Berna's book, Killing the Boss, he claims that he, Don Berna, and his cousin Seed were in the house assassinating Escobar before the police, before the media, and they were told to leave. Do you think that Don Berna was telling the truth?
Part of the truth, I believe, was the hit on Escobar was a combination in the paramilitaries. That's true. His cousin was there, but 2 or 3 policemen were involved too in the shooting Escobar. So then when this guy, the head of this group came, he told Don Berna to leave. But the operation was a combination of between police and the Pepes who killed Escobar.
Okay, and then when the government, the president, he said, these are the men who killed Escobar, and he told them, the media, these policemen, but Pepes had to disappear, did they? Because they were an illegal death squad?
Yeah, sure, but nobody wanted to, the government was not going to accept that the Pepes in the Cali Cartel has killed Escobar. No, it was a triumph of a win of the government and the establishment. But in the end, it was a combination of all this thing, because Escobar was not only dead that day. It was a war. It was fought all in 5 years, and it was we were destroying him little by little, because it was a very difficult man. It was a very, very dangerous person, and a very very intelligent man. So it was not easy. It was a process. It was a process that was a lot of money spent and a lot of blood.
What was the atmosphere like in Cali when Escobar died? Did you guys feel safe?
Yeah, it was like, we had it was like 2 feelings. Like, yeah, we were safe. What's gonna happen? I believe it was the most important moment of my father. He had to resolve a lot of issues of his life. But I believe in those moments, you know, pride and, you know, the ego, everything came forward because he believed he was invincible. And then that's the day when he lost, because he should have, you know, tried to surrender himself like the Ochoa brothers did and resolve all these issues with the authorities. But, you know, he was Mr. Miguel Rodriguez. He was the number one man in the world, and he believed he could achieve anything. But I believe the Americans and the families who control Colombia gave them a little bit, for a little while, the power, and now they wanted to take it back. So that's the story. You know, you have to read in my book how all of these things happen, and how really was the Escobar the story, no?
All right, so when Escobar was assassinated then, what was the atmosphere for Cali? Did you guys feel a lot safer at that point?
Yeah, like for our lives, we feel a lot of safer because those guys were now the new, you know, drug bosses of Colombia, and everybody respected us in those days. But in the end, it was a very, you know, difficult situation because I believe my father and Uncle Blue, the most important opportunity they have to, you know, like, you know, resolving all those legal issues that we had. But I believe they lost it, no, because they had won a battle against the Americans, and now they brought down Escobar, so they believe they were invincible, and I believe they messed it up because they had this great opportunity and they lost it.
Okay, and do you think that your father then, he believed that because he'd been instrumental in taking Escobar down, that the Colombian government would prevent his extradition to America?
Yeah, he believed that. No, he believed that he had so many relationships with all those politicians, and he had you know, he believed that he has the structure to, you know, be able to not be sent to United States. And in those moments, it was easy to think that because, you know, the extradition didn't exist between the United States and Colombia. So he believed he was safe, but America was working, you know, was working. And in the end, they were going to try to put in place the extradition again.
So imagine at that point in time, then you guys must have been heroes in the eyes of the government because they had struggled against Escobar for so long.
Yeah, but you know, this is momentarily, you know, because you had, you know, in those moments, my father had all the police by his side, a lot of people, politicians, high profile people from the government. But in the end, the government was finishing his period. Was another, you know, government was gonna come in place, and then everything was gonna go change. And United States decided, you know, to pressure Colombian authorities, so they wanted to change the police, you know, who ran the police in those moments. And then they did it, and they put somebody that was in their pocket, and then he came for us.
Who was that?
Rosso Jose Serrano.
Okay.
Known as one of the best policemen in the world. No, that's ironic, you know. But my father and uncle made him famous because they should have surrendered and not let this guy, you know, say that he finished the Cali Cartel.
How did the Ochoa brothers get through all this so safely? Because it seems like everybody else ended up dead or something really bad happened to them.
Yeah, there were three brothers. One unfortunately got involved with some people who were, you know, drug trafficking. I don't believe he was doing drug trafficking, but he was, you know, like lending money to those people, and he got hooked up in an operation in 2000, and he was sent to United States, and he's doing 30 years.
Hope you're enjoying this podcast. There's a word from our sponsor, Rocket Money. The other day, I had to cancel 3 Amazon Prime memberships. I had a personal on the UK Amazon, US Amazon, company account, US Amazon, UK Amazon. Do you understand how hard it is to cancel these bloody things? That's why Rocket Money makes these things so much easier, formerly known as Truebill. The app shows all your subscriptions in one place and cancels what you don't want for you. Rocket Money can even find subscriptions you didn't know you were paying for. Just like with me, with my 4 Amazon Prime memberships, you may find out you've been at least double charged for a subscription. To cancel a subscription, all you've got to do is press cancel and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Cancel unnecessary subscriptions with Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/Shaun, SHAUN. Seriously, it could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/Shaun, SHAUN. Thank you for supporting our sponsor, Rocket Money. Links in the description box. Cheers.
The other two, one died, being a free man, and the other one is still there. I believe that they are really the guys who are the most intelligent drug lords, because they were in the top and now they live a normal life, because they knew how to lower their profile, because they decided to forget about everything. But my father and uncle forgot about drug trafficking, but they didn't forget about power.
Do you ever talk to the Ochoa brother who's alive? Is it?
I only talk to the guy who is over here, Fabio, because when I was fighting one of those projects that the Americans were bringing up against us in Congress, I met to him to ask him for some money to help us, and he said he was gonna give like $100,000, and I said no, don't worry, thank you. But we believe, they would understand that in the end, all of the fractions are going to suffer, but in those moments, people believe that those laws only were for the Rodriguez.
So do you believe that the US government will work with a cartel to destroy another cartel, and then they always need a boogeyman?
Yeah, history has shown that. No, it's not, I can say history has shown that. And if you see what happened in different part of the world, that's the main way that they did it. And not that they're associated with us, but they look for the other way for a moment for these people and make us grow, and then we destroy ourselves. I believe that was the most stupid thing that could happen, because in the end, Pablo Escobar destroyed himself and we destroyed ourselves too.
So the Castano brothers, who were instrumental in finding Escobar with Don Berner, and the shootout, and Don Berner saying he was there with his brother Seed, all that kind of stuff in the house, those guys had to disappear because the media, it couldn't be reported that the Colombian government was working with this death squad. But did the Castaño brothers then turn against you guys because they were involved in the death of Chepe?
The first person of the Castaño brother was Fidel, the oldest one. He was the guy who had honor and had work. The other one was a bandit, Carlos. And Carlos was a mercenary. So he was beside the guy who was giving money. We were not giving money anymore to him. And now the North Valley cartel was financing all his activities. So he decided to go with them and betrayed us.
And he set Chepe up for death.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. That's what happened.
So when
later on, he was sending, emissaries to my dad to say he was, that he would have made a mistake, but in the end, there was only trying to hide his shame for what he done.
If Chepe came in second into the Cali Cartel, so him and Gilberto must have been, really close, bonded for so many years. What effect did Chepe's death have on Gilberto and Miguel?
Excuse me, I didn't understand the question.
Did it break the hearts of your father and Gilberto?
Yeah, sure. My father was most close to Chepe. He loved him like a brother, but in the end, my father, felt like betrayed by him because he didn't tell him that he was gonna he was gonna, escape, and that was a very hard moment for my dad and uncle. They almost were extradited by the government in those moments, and so it brought a lot of heat to us for what he did. But sure, it broke their hearts because they loved him, but we couldn't show that because we couldn't show that we were heartbreaking, because it would be very dangerous for us.
So that was 96, was it, when Chepe died?
96, yeah, 96.
And the assassination attempt on you was what year?
Mine the same year.
Okay, so by 96 then, the North Valley Cartel, is that becoming the most powerful?
Yeah, there was in the moment that they were more powerful, no, because they had the paramilitaries guys, the right wing with them, and they had the police that was run from a police that was their associate, that was called Danilo Gonzalez. That guy was the main guy. If you had a Danilo Gonzalez, you will win any war you want, because he had the police by his side.
So if you are a cocaine cartel in Colombia in those years, and you've got the right wing killing communists on your side, does that mean you get protection from the government for that period of time?
No, I don't believe that. I believe that that I tell you, there's fractions that they're like waves. First was Escobar here, and then he fell, and there's the Cali Cartel up here, and then the Cali Cartel falls, and now the North Valley Cartel is here. Now they fall, and now another cartel comes, because that's the way it works, no? And because we become objects of the authorities, and we become medals for police and the EA, those guys. So we're like how you say that, prey. We're like prey that we're worth something when we got a lot of value, and that's what happened. We become more important, and now we're the object.
So did Don Berner stay with you guys, or did he go with the Castaños?
No, he went with the Castaños.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
So what happened to him?
He went to prison. He's over here. He was extradited. They brought over here to the United States.
Do you know what year? Do you know what year he went to prison?
He went to prison like 206, 208, something like that.
So did he have a period of success then while you guys were going down?
Yeah, because first was Escobar, then it was William Rodríguez, then there was the North Valley Cartel, then it was a freshman, a guy called Varela. That guy was our enemy. They wasn't tough. Then there was one of these guys, main guys who killed Varela, was Comba, and then came the paramilitary groups. So they become number one object for the United States.
All right, so we're in 1996 now. There's been the assassination attempt on you. Are you starting to think about the consequences of this now, because you've seen it in real life, the deaths of your friends?
I believe I started to see the consequences of my life, and when I was hit, like my attend of my life. That's when I changed the way I saw, because I was running stuff like 2 years, and then I believe I was untouchable. I was becoming my dad, and then when this happened, now I knew that in the end I was gonna go to jail. I was gonna get killed. So I really decided to change this life and become different. No, but I was trapped because I was it's not an excuse, but in the end I had a lot of obligations with a family, and I had to be loyal to them.
And how easy was that? I mean, you've just seen your friends get killed. I mean, your gut instinct would be to want to kill the people who killed your friends.
Yeah, sure. That's the normal thing that you're gonna think about, but you have to know where are you and who are your enemy, and you cannot be a kamikaze, because you have a lot of family, a lot of innocent people. They're gonna get killed if you make a mistake. So I learned to live like the Greek people. They say you should sit in the balcony of your house to see when the dead guy passes, you know, in his box. So that's the way I learned to live and wait, because I knew these type of guys, they were very violent and they're gonna kill themselves between. So that's what happened. They all killed themselves, one against the other one, because of power and ignorance.
Had you learned lesson also from Pablo Escobar's son, making the mistake when his dad died? He did a radio interview and he said he was going to be more tough than his father and he was going to kill the guys that killed his father. But then he realized quite quickly that was a mistake. Had you been paying attention to that?
Yeah, no, but I believe he was a little kid. He was 14 years old, you know, but it was a very dangerous moment of his life, because he was gonna kill. And if you read the book of one of his books of him, the guy who saved him, it was my dad. My dad didn't let him be killed, you know, and told him that I cannot protect you anymore. Go and leave Colombia. But you cannot take, you know, a little kid while he was hurt. But I believe he did the right thing. Leave Colombia and become a good person, and because he's a good man. I know him. I have a relation with him, and I believe he did the correct.
And people often ask, you know, where did Escobar's money go? Did a lot of the money have to be given to the Cali Cartel because they took over?
That's what, you know, I believe one of the mistakes that maybe Juan Pablo says is that, because a lot of people got their money, but the Cali Cartel didn't get. My father and uncle only got a building that was not even his. It was the Galeano's building in Medellin. The other things at Escobar were you know, given to the Pepes. You know, that's what happened, because there a lot, and a lot of those you know, properties were taken by Escobar to other people.
So you're saying the Castaño brothers got a lot of Escobar's wealth?
Yeah, Escobar, Don Berna, all those people got a lot of stuff. We only got a building in Medellin. It was even Pablo Escobar. It was the Galeano's building. It was a very expensive building in Medellin. That's the only thing we got from that war. Okay,
so you say you were trapped then. You wanted, you know, to somehow stop it because you saw the consequences. But it's like you're at it's so big. It's like you're at a ship. You're captain of a ship at sea. You can't turn the ship that easily, can you?
This is, you know what happened with me, my channel and my friend. I got the plane when the plane was going down, and one of the engines was in flames. So that's what I have to manage, you know. In those moments, a lot of, you know, it was a very difficult situation. My father and uncle were in jail. We're not getting the cash that we used to manage, and we had a lot of people against us and fighting against the American, fighting against the establishment. It was very difficult moments, no? And that's what I had to live. But I tried to do my best, because I was a loyal soldier for my dad and uncle. But in the end, we were gonna lose the war, because to the Americans, you win battles, but the war in the end, you're gonna lose if you don't bargain with them.
So the Cali Cartel was famous then for having hiding places in walls, and sometimes, you know, when the police would come, your dad or Gilberto would hide in the walls. Is it calleta? Is that what it's called?
Caletas.
Caletas. Could
you manage, my friend? That's the sad part of this, no? You're the most powerful man in Colombia, and you have to hide in a caleta in a wall to survive. So that's the life you want. In the end, that's what you have to think. No, it's worth it, that being the most powerful man and you have to get in a wall to survive. Is that the life that people wanted? That's what you want to be. That's what people have to think about it.
Did you ever have to hide in a caleta?
No, never. Unfortunately, when I was, you know, hiding for more than 4 years, I decided to leave Cali and go to countrysides and to the jungle and hide there. It was easier. And I ran with 2 or 3 people by my side. That was easier. And I had a lot of luck. God was with me, and I was a very disciplined person. You know, I was hiding. Really, I was hiding. I was not fooling around. I was 24/7 trying to not get caught.
So there was a guy on the inside who was high up in your security, Jorge Salcido.
Jorge Salcedo.
What did he do?
The only important thing that guy did in his life was give up my father, no? And he made a book, and now he's like James Bond, no? But the guy he made a lot of stories, but everybody believed him. But in the end, the only important thing that he did, and it was very important because he was the guy who gave up my father, the main guy of the Cali Cartel. And that's Jorge Salcedo.
And he was your father's, was he his head security?
No, he was the guy who was running communications in the Cali Cartel. You know, when the war started, the chief of security of my dad bring him aboard, and this guy was the guy who was running that part of the operation, the communication. You know, and the guy was the guy who was, you know, they had a big computer, and they were taking the incoming calls from Medellin in Colombia and mixing it up in Cali and see if this guy, you know, suspicious number that we have from Medellin calls that house, then this guy is now an object, and so they start following the guy, and then they take him to see what they doing. That was the main, you know, operation that Jorge Salcedo was doing. And then when the war was won and everything happened, then this guy, you know, because he was, you know, he was an intelligent man, you have to say it. He started, you know, taking down like people close to my dad to get near him, and then he surrendered this person that was called El Mayor del Basto. He was the main security man of my father. He surrendered him. He gave him up to the authorities, and then now he became like very close to my dad, and that's the way he started, you know, telling where my dad was.
How were you captured?
I never was captured, my friend. I surrendered myself. I surrendered myself in Panama, and was brought here to the United States. But I was not captured. I surrendered myself.
What led to you surrendering yourself?
I believe my 2 kids and my wife. I believe I had run more than 4 years. And my father was already over here. And when I saw my father get on the plane, I knew he lost his war against the Americans. And then it was my turn to try to resolve my problem, no? And unfortunately I did. And I gave my kids an opportunity to live a different life. Being in Colombia, they will never be who they are here, you know, because they always will be. That's William's kid. This is the granddaughter of Miguel Rodríguez. So I believe here there are normal people, and they're doing amazing.
How much prison time did you serve?
I did 5 years.
Was that in the U.S. federal system?
A federal institution, yeah.
Okay. And what year were you released?
2010.
2010. Okay. And what was it like coming out?
Difficult, no? Adapting yourself to, you know, I was lost in space, I say, because it's not only the 5 years that I was running, 5 years in prison. There were 4 more years running. They were more difficult than being in prison. We're talking about 9 years when you are totally, you know, out there. I lost communicate, you know, how you say that, with computers and all that.
Technology.
There's something very, very funny, no? When I got out in 2010, I got in a friend's car, no, a BMW, and the guy told me, "Hey, why don't you drive?" So I got in the car, and my God, and where's the key? I say, no, it's not that button. So I was lost in technology for a long time because it was 10 almost 10 years of being hiding and being in prison. It's not easy, but I believe like in 6 months you adapt yourself to a normal life. But because at first, and the noise, a lot of people, that was like very stressful for me. But in the end, you adapt yourself, and unfortunately, I knew I had to adapt myself to my home because in the end, I was the stranger now. My 2 kids and my wife been by themselves for 9 years. So unfortunately, she waited for me and she gave the principles to my kids, and I'll never have. I don't believe nothing to pay her, all she done for my 2 kids and for me.
Well, that's good to hear, man. So are you able to visit your father, or is that not allowed?
I seen him like 3 times when I came out, but now for COVID is very difficult, a situation. At first was difficult too. And well, let's see what happened with this COVID thing, because federal prisons are still, by those restrictions.
And your uncle, he'd served a lot of prison time. Was his death a surprise, Gilberto?
No, he was sick. He was sick a long time, and in the end, it's very sad. That he died in a prison cell. And that's. But in the end, that's the shoes that you make, in life. I always say that when you decide this type of life, you have glory and you have the boom, but then you have the fall, and in the end, you will end dead, or you die in a prison. So unfortunately, my uncle died there, and it's very sad.
Does your dad have a release date?
Yeah, he'll be out in, I believe, March of the 30 to 30.
In 2030?
2030.
2030, so he's got 8 more years.
Yes. No, 7 years to go.
Oh, seven more years. And how does he pass the time in prison? Does he have a routine that he told you about?
The only way you have to survive in prison, you have to do a routine. You have to do a lot of exercise, read, and that's the only way you can pass the days. And so he has a routine. He works a lot now, but now it's complicated with the COVID thing. They don't let him go out to the yard. It's hard. It's being in prison. It's not easy.
So when I interviewed Pablo Escobar's son, he said he gets messages every day from people who've watched Narcos, and they say, "I want to be like your dad." And he says, "No, you don't want to be like my dad." What do you say to these young men who think it's cool to be a gangster?
I'm gonna tell them the truth. I'm not gonna try to sell them a story that's not is. That's the one that Netflix and those platforms sell to those kids. That this is a glamour. That's amazing. That this is the life that you should expect. I believe not, because I didn't learn this by reading a book. This was not a story that somebody told me. I lived it, and I believe it was a very hard life that I have to, suffer for my bad actions. I was shot 8 times. I was running for 4. I was in prison 5 years. Now I'm an auxilian. I just say auxilian. I don't know how you auxilian, auxiliado. I don't know. Asylum from my country. I cannot go back. So I have lost a lot of people that I care. My best friends had died. My cousin that I love died. I have lost a lot of relations with a lot of family members, and so that's the real story, and that's not cool, I'm not gonna say that you're not gonna get the boom. I have to tell them the truth. Yeah, I was a man, one of the main guys of this organization, but in the end, for 20 seconds of being the man, has been 30 years of being, and suffering the bad consequences of my bad actions.
Yeah, that's a good message for the young people. And this has been such a powerful interview. I mean, we could probably do parts 2 and parts 3 because there's so much more to get into. I know you've been very generous with your time right now, so I'm going to urge the viewers to, you know, get your book. There's so much more in the book, Son of the Cali Cartel. It's available worldwide on Amazon as an ebook, as a paperback, as an audio book, and it's just breathtaking. You know, it starts out with what happened with the assassination and just then gets into all the details of the cartel. But, you know, if we did do another part, I'd be fascinated to hear about your, you know, your prison stories, the 5 years in prison, when you went through on the run for 4 years, the challenges there. There's just so much more to it, William.
Yeah, I believe the book is the story of when I surrender myself and, you know, do my time in prison, not in prison. It's like the part when I, you know, my legal battle is in there, I believe. But like you say, there are a lot more stories. You know, being in a jail is very, you know, it's another adventure. So yeah, later on we can make another one and talk about that. Maybe talk about soccer, talk a lot of stuff that's missing.
Can people contact you or follow you on social media?
Yeah, my Instagram is William Rodríguez AB, and that's the main social media that I have, and I hope you follow me there and to see what I'm doing.
So all those links will be in the description box, and a huge thank you to reecedry as well. He is managing William, and Reece's links will be in the description box. So if you want to organize something with William, if you want to interview William, or you want to do an event, whatever it is, go down in the description box and please contact reecedry. So thanks for watching this interview. Let us know in the comments what you thought. Really appreciate it. Take care wherever you are in the world, and huge thank you to William for being so generous with his time. Cheers.
Thank you.